Chapter 83. Private Room 16. Photon. Flee. And this person. You should know him, right? Yu Meng introduced them one by one. Lin Feng greeted them one by one. Photon was a young man with a strange hairstyle. He was smiling, and one could tell that he was a cheerful and passionate person. Flee was a skinny young man who was slightly short. His gaze was filled with suspicion, but it was understandable. As for the person in the middle, Dean Shi, Lin Feng said in surprise. This middle-aged man with white sideburns was the dean of the Jiaoyang District Elementary Genetic Academy, Shi. He was the captain, that teacher you said she knew? This was very unexpected. Welcome to the Ice Lions Adventurer team, Lin Feng. I'm the captain, Shi. Everyone calls me Lion King. Shi stretched out his thick palm and revealed a smile. Hello, Dean. Lin Feng appeared to be somewhat reserved. This steel-like man was a legend in Jiaoyang District. Dean, Shi was stunned and couldn't help but look toward Yu Meng. Lion King, you don't know me? Yu Meng smiled casually. Lin Feng felt helpless when he heard this. It was obvious that teacher Yu Meng hadn't told the dean his identity. Photon couldn't help but feel curious. Should we know, boss? Of course. Yu Meng smiled charmingly. Lin Feng just graduated from the Jiaoyang District Elementary Genetic Academy this year. What? Photon and Flee weren't the only ones who were shocked. Shi was also stunned. He then burst into laughter. This was his student? Haha, this is really interesting. Photon laughed loudly. It's been a long time since I saw boss's embarrassed expression. I didn't expect that the new member would be a student. Lemon, he's a genetic warrior? Flee frowned slightly. No, he's an ancient martial artist, Yu Meng replied. With this question, Shi was even more bewildered. The Jiaoyang District Elementary Genetic Academy had never accepted ancient martial artists. It's a long story. Lin Feng smiled faintly. I'm indeed an ancient martial artist. Please take care of me in the future. All right, no matter what, it's a good thing that the student has surpassed the teacher. Shi smiled in satisfaction. I heard from Lemon that you defeated the Emperor of the Elite Crown Academy. It's just luck, Lin Feng said humbly. Yes, the stone lion nodded. Our destination this time is the wilderness. If you don't have enough strength, you'll just be sending yourself to your death. Especially since you and Lemon are close combat types. You'll be facing the elemental beasts head-on. I understand, Lin Feng said. The adventurer squadron was like a machine that required the matching of various parts. Basically, he needed a hunter who was good at scouting, a sniper with the most powerful attack, a strong fighter who was good at long-range attacks, a defensive meat shield, and a Geno warrior who was good at control. Of course, a melee attacker was also indispensable. This was because they had to face more than one or two elemental beasts in the wildlands. There were hundreds and thousands of them. Don't be arrogant just because you defeated Huang Shang. There are too many people here who can defeat him. Flee looked serious. Academic Geno warriors lack actual combat experience. They are different from warriors who spend all their time in the wild. In the wilderness, the slightest carelessness could very well result in death. Moreover, the danger doesn't only come from the elemental beasts. Flee's gaze was very deep. Senior, thank you for the reminder. Lin Feng nodded. Okay, don't worry. I will protect you. Photon patted Lin Feng's shoulder and smiled. Ignore this guy. He is always trying to scare you. Flee is right. The stone lion looked at Lin Feng. His gray sideburns revealed a hint of vigor and sadness. Many times, it is impossible to predict the arrival of danger. Even I may not be able to survive. Photon and Flee looked at each other and did not say anything else. The atmosphere was a bit tense. It seems that there is a story behind this. Lin Feng saw this and thought to himself. He could see that Dean Shi, Photon, and Flee were obviously closer to each other. Tutor Yu Meng was a bit unfamiliar with them. Excluding himself, Tutor Yu, and the vice captain, Ice Rose, who had not yet arrived, the Ice Lion Adventurers team only had 4 people. It was obviously unusual. It seems that some members died during the training. Lin Feng quickly came to a conclusion. The world of ruins was already very dangerous, let alone the unknown and terrifying wildlands. Challenging was like dancing on the edge of a blade. It was accompanied by many dangers. However, this was the path of a true expert. At this moment, the door was pushed open. The cold atmosphere instantly disappeared. Lin Feng looked over and saw a woman in a red elemental armor. She had phoenix eyes and an oval-shaped face. She carried a transparent ice bow that was taller than her, and there was a bright red quiver on her waist. Although her appearance eased the atmosphere, it also brought about an unusually cold feeling. Ice rose. Lin Feng's heart was moved. However, in the next moment, a purple figure flashed and appeared in the private room. She had a delicate face and a fairy-like smile. Wasn't she, Ling? Yu Meng was shocked. Big pervert. When Xiaoling saw Lin Feng, her sweet smile instantly turned into shock. Swish! Lin Feng felt a chill down his spine. It was the cold gaze of the red-clothed girl. Ice rose. She followed Xiaoling's shout and looked over. What's going on? Ice rose. The stone lion was confused. Who's this girl? Xiaoling, Principal Xia's granddaughter. Ice Rose's gaze landed on Xiaoling. There was a rare, doting look on her face. She kept pestering me. I had no choice but to bring her here. Yu Meng's expression changed. Lin Feng had a bad feeling in his heart. Could it be Uncle Lion King? Xiaoling came to the stone lion and pleaded, Grandpa said you would take care of me, right? The stone lion smiled bitterly. Ling or no, how can you enter wildlands with your strength? Yu Meng frowned. But he can go too. Xiaoling pointed at Lin Feng. Oh, Lin Feng felt a headache coming on. Lin Feng's strength is obvious. He is even stronger than me, Yu Meng said seriously. And you are just a beginner Geno warrior. Xiaoling turned around and looked at Ice Rose pitifully. Bring her along, Ice Rose said. Ice Rose opened her mouth. She'll be fine if she stays by my side. Plus, Linger already knows how to use the special element Niobium Force. In terms of survival and escape, if she says she's number 2, I'm afraid no one here can say they're number 1. Survival and escapability? Yu Meng's smile was a little funny. Sister Ice. Xiaoling blushed and pouted. In the team, strength equaled the right to speak. The strongest, the Stone Lion and Ice Rose, agreed. Xiaoling was able to join the team successfully. Lin Feng immediately felt a lot of pressure. Fortunately, after he saved her on the day of the school selection competition, Xiaoling's attitude towards him had changed a lot. They didn't get along well, but at least she didn't want to kill him anymore. That was enough. From then on, the new Ice Lions adventure team was officially decided. Flea, Hunter, Advanced Ancient Warrior General. Yu Meng, Electromagnetic Cannoneer, Beginner Geno Warrior. The captain, the Stone Lion, was the strongest meat shield, intermediate defense type Geno Warrior. The vice captain, Ice Rose, was the strongest sniper and field controller, intermediate ancient warrior, and the only 8-star adventurer. Yu Meng, melee attack type, advanced Geno Warrior. Lin Feng, melee attack type, beginner Geno Warrior. Xiaoling, all right, we are all on the same team from now on. We will help each other and go through thick and thin together. The Stone Lion's sharp gaze swept across everyone. There are no cowards in our Ice Lions adventure team, nor are there any deserters. In the wilderness, we must absolutely trust our companions. The 7 of us set off, and the 7 of us will return. The team members were filled with fighting spirit. They gathered in a circle and formed an adventurer's promise. Next, we will announce our destination. The Stone Lion's eyes were bright as he opened a huge map. Qinling Mountains. Chapter 84. Qinling Mountains. That was an A-grade wilderness area. Wow, Lin Feng's eyes lit up. The wilderness areas were also divided into 2 categories, A-grade and B-grade. The rank B wilderness was undoubtedly much less dangerous. Lin Feng had done his homework and was very clear about the terror of the rank A wilderness. Not to mention martial saints, even experts who had surpassed the martial saint level might not be able to come out alive after entering the wilderness. Wasn't it too hasty to go to Qinling Mountains? Lin Feng's expression turned serious. Lion King, Why didn't we choose B-grade wilderness areas? Yu Meng frowned. Do you think B-grade wilderness areas are safe? Sure looked over and shook his head. That's not the case. The closest wilderness areas are B03 and B04. One has plains and the other has lakes. The former is easy to be surrounded by beasts and have nowhere to run. The latter is filled with traps, and the strength of the beasts in the lakes fluctuates greatly. Lin Feng nodded. What Dean Sure said was based on his own experience. Reading 10,000 books was not as good as traveling 10,000 miles. Also, Sure hesitated and sighed. In B-grade wilderness areas, the other adventurer teams are actually more dangerous. Ice Rose's cold voice suddenly sounded. There are too many ambushes, sneak attacks, and double-crossing, especially since humans are much more cunning than elemental beasts. When the other party wants to kill you, you might not even know. 3 months ago, we were ambushed in B04 wilderness area. 3 of our team members died in battle. Ice Rose's eyes were filled with coldness. The air instantly froze. Her voice was very calm, but there was a hint of hatred in it. Lin Feng felt the same. Indeed, why did people enter the wilderness areas? Some people wanted to train themselves, some wanted to challenge themselves, but most people wanted to earn money. They risked their lives to kill elemental beasts again and again. Even a month's worth of profit might not be comparable to a successful ambush. People's hearts were not what they used to be. There were always people who liked to take shortcuts. No wonder Big Brother said that the most terrifying thing in the wilderness areas is not elemental beasts, but humans, Lin Feng thought. Compared to the wilderness areas were 2 completely different worlds. That's enough. Sure frowned and interrupted. Pointing at the map, the stone lion said solemnly, although the Qinling Mountains are an A-grade wilderness area, there are mountains everywhere. It is very suitable for our adventure team because we have 2 powerful long-range attack points. The stone lion pointed to the center of the map. Mount Taibai, Mount Hua, Mount Zhongnan, and Mount Qinling. These are the 3 great mountain ranges where the Blessed Enclave is located. This is the forbidden zone of Mount Qinling. With this as the center, no one is allowed to approach within 100 miles, because elemental beasts have a very strong sense of territory. Lin Feng kept that in mind. Dean Shure's analysis hit the nail on the head. Apart from this area, what's left is basically a B-grade wilderness, dominated by beast generals and normal beast king. The stone lion's eyes lit up. Because of the concept of territory, powerful elemental beasts will move closer to Mount Taibai, Mount Hua, and Mount Zhongnan. The stronger they are, the closer they will be to these 3 mountains. That is because that is the legendary land of dragon veins. Of course, there are always exceptions. The other areas of the Qinling Mountains may not be as safe as I said. For example, the bat swarms are equally terrifying. These are only relative terms. The stone lion's gaze swept across everyone. Entering the wilderness, you will naturally face all kinds of challenges and dangers. If anyone wants to leave, I will not force you. Leaving now is just leaving. Those who walk different paths cannot work together. But leaving after entering the Qinling Mountains is betrayal. These 2 words were unusually heavy. I have no problem. Lin Feng was the first to express his opinion. Back then, he had just crossed the critical line and dared to challenge the ruins alone. Why would he be afraid now? In order to become an expert, one must always maintain a challenging heart. I have no problem too. Yu Meng pondered for a moment and smiled charmingly. Me too, Xiaoling said. Photon and Flea smiled. Naturally, they would not have any objections. Very good. The stone lion's eyes lit up. He put away the map. Now, let's disperse and go to the elemental mall to buy necessities. We will gather here in an hour. Let's go to Mount Qinling. Okay, everyone shouted in unison. The Sure family. This is our chance. This is our only chance. Shi Zhong's eyes were full of hatred, as if he was crazy. At this moment, he seemed to have returned to 20 years ago, when he was scheming against each other in the ruins and his life was hanging by a thread. But master, Lin Feng seems to have joined the Ice Lion Adventurer team. That is an 8-star team. LV Ching's voice was trembling. He was only a 4-star bodyguard. In front of the Ice Lion Adventurer team, he was not even comparable to an ordinary elemental beast general. I know. Shi Zhong was almost roaring. His voice was a little hoarse. How could he not know? It was an impossible mission to kill Lin Feng in the Ice Lion Adventurer team. Could he do it with money? However, this was his last chance. Once Lin Feng officially joined the Elemental Commerce Alliance, he would be left with nothing but despair. There must be a way. There must be. Shi Zhong's veins were bulging. He frowned and kept thinking of a way. But at this moment, the crystal watch sounded. LV Ching's expression was ugly. He looked at Shi Zhong in horror. Master, they have entered the Qinling Mountains. Pang! Shi Zhong suddenly collapsed on the sofa, his eyes blank. If Lin Feng had entered the ruins, he had a 1% chance. Now, it was less than 1 in 10,000. At this moment, beep, beep, beep. Shi Zhong's crystal watch sounded. Shi Zhong looked at the crystal watch weakly. He immediately stood up and pressed the button. Whoosh! A micro-video projection appeared. It was a young man wearing Geno armor. There was a dragon tattoo on his arm. His eyes were bright, and he was extraordinarily handsome. Behind him was an endless mountain range. He could vaguely hear the roars of elemental beasts, the howling of the wind, and the laughter of other warriors. Young master, LV Chung exclaimed. The young man with the dragon tattoo was Shi Zhong's eldest son, Shi Wulong. Father, I know about my brother. Shi Wulong's voice was low, and his eyes flashed. Zhonglei told you? Shi Zhong frowned. He was not happy. He meant well. That Lin Feng is very strong. He is a first-class genius. Shi Wulong's voice was steady and low. Leave this to me. Father, don't worry about it. I heard that he has gone to Qinling with the Ice Lion team. When it came to gathering information, Dragon Killing Island was the best. But will this affect you? Shi Zhong asked hesitantly. No, Shi Wulong said coldly. Shi Wulong sneered and said, It just so happens that our special training location is in the Qinling Mountains. I will ask the leader to help. Destroying the Ice Lion's adventurers will be a piece of cake. Shi Zhong's eyes brightened, and his breathing quickened. Don't worry, father. Shi Wulong smiled confidently. A first-class genius is nothing. He is just a high-level ancient warrior. He hasn't joined the Elemental Business Alliance yet. Even if he did, so what? Other people might be afraid of the Elemental Business Alliance, but Dragon Killing Island is not. That's all. Wait for my good news, father. Bye. His proud figure disappeared in an instant. Shi Zhong clenched his fists. He was excited from the bottom of his heart. His dull eyes shone. You're dead, Lin Feng. Chapter 85. Ruin C02. Look, what's that? It's a cobalt-type, sky, dazzling war chariot. The legendary luxurious war chariot that costs 100,000 gold coins. What an eye-opener. The adventurers looked at the sky enviously. At this moment, only a red afterimage was left. The war chariot was as fast as lightning. However, the war chariot was very stable. It was equipped with a top-notch shock absorber. There was no vibration in the war chariot at all. This was the war chariot of the Ice Lions. To be more precise, it was unique to their vice captain, Ice Rose. No wonder they have the confidence to enter the wildlands. It was Lin Feng's first time seeing a war chariot. Unlike the magnetic hover car, the war chariot was controlled by voice alone. There was no need for the supercomputer to arrange the path. More importantly, the war chariot had strong defense and combat abilities. For example, this cobalt-type, sky-dazzling war chariot had the special ability of cobalt power. It could accelerate 3 times. In terms of escaping, it was top-notch. Moreover, its external defense could withstand Beast King's attacks. North of the Qinling Mountains are elemental beasts evolved from white-striped bats and yellow rats. They live in groups and are much more dangerous than south of the Qinling Mountains. So, this is our destination, A18 of the Qinling Mountains. It is at the border of Ruin C02. Remember, stay away from rivers and lakes. In the wildlands, the elemental beasts in the water are the most dangerous. They're also the most elite elemental beasts there. In the war chariot, the stone lion explained seriously. Lin Feng, Yu Meng, and Xia Ling listened carefully. Yu Meng was the most experienced among the three. However, compared to the four members of the Ice Lions, she was still far behind. Lin Feng and Xia Ling could be considered as newbies. To Lin Feng, every word of Dean Shi was invaluable. These were the experiences he gained from adventuring in the wildlands. They cannot be found in the online world. It was also knowledge that he could not gain from adventuring in the ruin world alone. The stronger one was, the wider one's horizons would be. Wildlands, Sea King, and title, Lin Feng muttered to himself. He had always been fighting against martial venerables and above, so the concept was very vague. But now it was completely clear. After the martial honorable realm was the savage realm, which meant that one could gain a foothold in the savage realm. After the savage realm was the Sea King realm, which meant that one could enter the boundless ocean. After the Sea King realm was the legendary titled realm. These experts stood at the peak of the world and had unique titles, such as the Twin Tree Garden God, the True Martial Emperor, the Dragon-Killing Island Lord, and so on. The number of elemental beasts far exceeds that of humans, but it is also far more difficult for them to cross that bottleneck than humans. However, as long as it crosses the bottleneck, even if it isn't an elite elemental beast, it will possess intelligence and evolve into an elemental heart, becoming a tyrannical savage-level monster. Lin Feng absorbed it like a sponge. There were plenty of savage monsters in the Qinling Mountains, but most of them were concentrated in the three mountain ranges. Monsters were different from elemental beasts. Monsters had intelligence and knew how to become stronger. The reason why the Qinling Mountains were called the Land of the Dragon Veins was because of the existence of the three mountain ranges. They had the best resources and the densest spiritual energy of heaven and earth. Naturally, monsters would gather there. Apart from rivers and lakes, there may also be savage-level monsters in some valleys and grottos, including the peaks of large mountain ranges. Once you discover any danger, immediately get into the chariot and escape. Run as far as you can. You must remember this in the wilderness. Saving your life is more important than earning money. The stone lion's voice was low. Lin Feng remembered it in his heart. In his heart, he felt a trace of pressure, but more than that, he was excited and challenged. The wilderness. Lin Feng's eyes brightened. I'm coming. Qinling Mountains, 18. What rich energy of heaven and earth! Lin Feng exclaimed in surprise. As soon as he got out of the chariot, the energy of heaven and earth hit him in the face, far surpassing that of Sunset City. Closing his eyes, Lin Feng instantly entered a state of calmness. Even if he didn't use the Heart Sutra, he could feel the energy of heaven and earth seeping into his pores. It was incomparably comfortable. In the wilderness, he had already sensed that the energy of heaven and earth was richer than in Sunset City. Right now, the contrast was even stronger. Of course, Photon laughed heartily. This is also why the death rate in the wilderness is high, but the ancient warriors have been squeezing their heads to come here. Here, cultivating for a few hours is equivalent to cultivating for a day and a night in the city. Lin Feng nodded. It was like soaking in gene fluid. The higher the grade of the gene fluid, the better the absorption efficiency. This is nothing. Flea walked in front of Lin Feng, his eyes bright. The closer we get to Mount Hua, the richer the energy of heaven and earth will be. With that, his figure moved and disappeared like smoke. Lin Feng's eyes couldn't help but light up. His heart was touched. Quite a high level of attainment and movement. It was an indescribable feeling. Showing off. Photon laughed. Let's go. The stone lion strode forward like a lion king. Lin Feng, according to the previous arrangement, you and Lemon will be at the back. There was no nonsense. Everything had been explained in the chariot. Entering the wilderness was not to play and learn, but a real life and death adventure. The stone lion was at the front alone. Photon, Ice Rose, and Summerling were in the middle of the team. Lin Feng and Moon Ming were at the back. As for Flea, he was the team's hunter. He was responsible for scouting, and luring elemental beasts. The division of labor was clear. Everyone in the team, except for Summerling, had their own roles. Soon, ring. A crisp sound rang. The stone lion glanced at the crystal watch and said in a deep voice, "Coming, D5. Lin Feng's eyes lit up. The adventurer teams had secret codes. Deansher had already explained it on the chariot. D5 referred to the strongest high-level beast general. D5 referred to the number of 50. Unlike in the wilderness, the number of elemental beasts in the ruined world was usually calculated by 10. In the wilderness, the number of elemental beasts was often calculated by hundreds. Lin Feng, Lemon, this batch is yours. The stone lion's eyes lit up. Chi. Lin Feng unsheathed his blue wolf saber. His expression was calm. The captain, Stone Lion, was a mid-level Geno battle venerable. The vice-captain, Ice Rose, was a mid-level ancient martial venerable. For the two of them, there was no need to deal with elemental beasts that were only high-level beast generals. In the adventure team, the more work one did, the more rewards one would get. Those who killed would often get more than 50% of the profits. Cobalt Power. Moon Meng instantly entered battle mode. Crystallization. Moon Meng's beautiful eyes glanced at Lin Feng. It was because of the battle and world of war that she finally made up her mind to give up her peaceful college life and come out to explore. She also wanted to become stronger. She also wanted to become a Geno battle venerable. She even wanted to become a legendary savage elite. Beam Saber Bright. Let's compete, Lin Feng. Moon Meng smiled charmingly. Okay, Yujia. Lin Feng smiled. In the adventurer team, Minter Moon had asked him to call her Yujia. After all, it would be weird to call her Minter Moon. Xiaoling was holding a C1 grade U element beam saber. She was also ready for battle. However, compared to Lin Feng and Moon Meng, her delicate face was filled with anxiety. Beside her, Ice Rose had already taken out a huge transparent ice bow. It emitted a faint, icy aura. Boom, boom. The ground was shaking. Lin Feng's eyes were already shining. The furious roar of a beast was accompanied by the whistling of the wind. The ground under his feet was shaking. A thin and short figure appeared in front of him. It was the hunter, Flea, who was in charge of scouting and luring the enemy. Behind him, smoke and dust were billowing. Countless beasts were charging at him furiously. There were more than 50 beasts. It was a big battle. This is the savage territory. Lin Feng's hand, that was holding the saber, tightened slightly. The world of elemental beasts. Are you ready? Photon, who had slicked back hair, laughed loudly. He suddenly jumped and went straight into the air. At this moment, he was holding a 2-meter-long, 30-centimeter diameter electromagnetic cannon in front of his chest. The cannon's muzzle was condensed with a shocking amount of nickel power. Let's get to work, Photon shouted excitedly. Boom! The electromagnetic cannon fired wildly. The deafening sound resounded through the sky. Chapter 86. Rumble. It was as if a meteor had fallen from the sky. The electromagnetic cannon's shocking power exploded in the middle of the beast horde. The powerful nickel energy was ferocious. Even though Lin Feng was mentally prepared, he was still shocked by the huge formation. A cannon shot killed a small portion of the beast horde and split the elemental beast horde into two. It was extremely chaotic. So this is the Ice Lion Adventurer team's strongest long-range attack. Lin Feng muttered to himself. Photon was probably just testing the waters. Ta! The boundless sea of energy was activated. Lin Feng decisively charged into the elemental beast horde on the left. He knew that this was not only his first battle in the wildlands, but also a true test of his strength. In the Ice Lion Adventurer team, the close-range attacks role was to clean up. This was because the main attacker was the Lion King, who had super strong defense, and the vice-captain, Ice Rose. The two of them were the strongest existences in the beast horde. The close-range attacks mission was to clean up the remaining beast generals. Photon was more of a wide-range attack. Once he entered the battlefield, the electromagnetic cannon's power would be greatly reduced. Therefore, Yu Meng and Lin Feng were able to join the Ice Lion Adventurer team even though their strength had not reached the level of a martial saint. To the Ice Lion Adventurer team, the close-range attacks need was not very strong. Moreover, to find a suitable beginner martial saint was not an easy task. Basically, all martial saints had their own fixed team, not to mention martial saints. His reaction speed and mental strength are not inferior to Yu Meng's. The stone lion saw it. The stone lion knew Yu Meng's strength, but Lin Feng. The stone lion had some reservations about the student recommended by Yu Meng. Even though Lin Feng had defeated the emperor of the elite Crown Academy, this was because it was nothing. Even the weakest member of the Ice Lion Adventurer team, Flea, could defeat the so-called super genius. Strength did not equate to battle power. Seeing was believing. Oh, the stone lion's eyes suddenly lit up. He saw Lin Feng riding the wind and breaking the waves. Every move he made showed the demeanor of a martial saint. He was not sloppy at all. Every slash was fatal. His smooth movement technique and decisive slaughter made him look nothing like a newbie. In a short period of time, half of the elemental beasts on Lin Feng's side had already fallen. Extremely efficient. Ice Rose's eyes lit up. On the left, only half of Lin Feng's elemental beasts remained. On the right, 3/4 of Moon Meng's elemental beasts remained. It was obvious who was superior. At this moment, Xia Ling had finally regained her senses. She held the Yu element lightsaber in her hand, and the power of niobium rose like a mist as she rushed towards Yu Meng. Violent Shark Devour, Hidden Dragon Sturgeon. Repeating these two moves, Lin Feng was in the middle of the beast horde. Lin Feng's infinity sea of qi operated as if it was swimming in the ocean. During the battle, Lin Feng comprehended the concept of saber moves. Even though the first and second moves of the 7 spinning slash had been perfectly comprehended, the third and fourth moves were still proficient. First glimpse, master perfection. Although the second level of mastery was already very strong, it was still a distance away from the power of the perfect Sword Dao. The third and fourth moves of mastery could not be compared to the first and second moves of perfection. However, at this moment, it was more than enough to deal with the elemental beast generals in front of him. Chi. Lin Feng quickly finished off the dozen or so elemental beasts on this side, cleanly and efficiently. His gaze then landed on the right. At this moment, Yu Jie had already activated the first level of the blood transformation cobalt. The power of Violent Lemon was fully displayed, and every move was shockingly powerful. Beside Yu Jie, Xiaoling's body seemed to have turned into a grayish-white mist. It was hazy and strange. The Yu element lightsaber in her hand released its power as she fought with several elemental beast generals. Special element, niobium, grade B elemental heart. Lin Feng's eyes lit up. He was very curious. Being able to merge her body into the mist was a very special elemental ability. No wonder the vice captain said that in terms of escaping ability, no one here could compare to Xiaoling. Only grade B elemental hearts and above had this special element. Suddenly not good. Lin Feng was shocked. It was a cold light hidden among the giant beasts. It was hiding in a protruding part of the back of an isopotassium antelope. A beam of light suddenly appeared from the dense crystal body and went straight for Xiaoling. It was the bamboo light rat, known for its flexibility and cunning, with a magnesium crystal as its core. Whoosh! Lin Feng shot out. His reaction speed was fast, but the bamboo light rat was faster. Its sharp claws and teeth were like daggers as it slashed Xiaoling's throat. Its small body was hidden on the huge isopotassium antelope, and it was very difficult to discover. It was too late. Chi! The sound of something breaking through the air was heard. Lin Feng's heart suddenly trembled. It was a beam of red light with a deep coldness, like a rose in full bloom. In an instant, his vision blurred, and the bamboo light rat was shot through. Its body seemed to be covered in a layer of ice, and it fell to the ground with the red light. Bang! It shattered like a cold rose. Lin Feng turned his head and looked into the distance. It was a woman holding a transparent ice bow. The bowstring was fully drawn, and her face was as cold as ice. Vice Captain, Ice Rose. What terrifying archery! Lin Feng's heart trembled. He only heard the sound of the arrow, but he couldn't even see the shadow of the arrow. If this arrow was aimed at him, what happened? This is the top 3 archers in Sunset City, an 8-star adventurer, Lin Feng exclaimed. Terrifyingly powerful. The battle ended cleanly. Lin Feng, Photon, Yu Meng, and Xiaoling each took out their crystal cores. This was the most valuable material for ordinary elemental beasts. Unlike the wilderness, which was basically filled with grade E crystal cores, the proportion of grade E crystal cores in the uncultivated land was not high. Most of them were grade D and C crystal cores. Although elemental beasts were not intelligent, they at least had instincts. Using grade D and C crystal cores was naturally much better than grade E crystal cores. Since grade E crystal cores were cheap, the price of grade D and C crystal cores began to rise. Z. Qila. Fast and accurate knife techniques. Lin Feng looked over. Flea was holding a scimitar in one hand and a dagger in the other. A huge isopotassium antelope was instantly dissected. The complete potassium crystal, fur, and even the most difficult part, the spine, were all done in less than 5 seconds. So skillful in dissecting an ox. Lin Feng looked on in admiration. The collection of materials seemed to have become an art in Flea's hands. Hunters were indispensable to every adventure team. The shortest was 2 to 3 seconds, and the longest was close to 10 seconds. More than 40 elemental beast materials were all collected. There were also 10 elemental beasts that had been blasted into pieces by Photon at the beginning. 15 crystal cores, 1 C4, 1 D4, 2 C5. Lin Feng calculated in his heart. Crystal cores were the same as the elemental heart. They were divided into the most common grade E, normal grade D, and excellent grade C in terms of purity. When wild beasts ate elemental crystals, they would produce crystal cores in their bodies and become elemental beasts. Using grade D elemental crystals as an example, the soldier grade crystal cores were D9, D8, D7. General grade crystal cores were D6, D5, D4, and Beast King grade crystal cores were D3, D2, D1. The smaller the number, the higher the purity of the crystal core. Of course, the greater the power, just like the continuous advancement of the elemental heart of a gene warrior. Above D1, the crystal core had reached its limit. If one wanted to break through, it would advance to the elemental heart and transform into a monster. Of course, in the wilderness, there were also natural elemental hearts. If wild beasts ate the elemental heart, they would mutate and develop intelligence to become elite elemental beasts. 1 C for crystal core is 1 gold coin. 2 C5 crystal cores are also 1 gold coin. A D4 crystal core is 10 silver coins. The grade of the crystal core was more important than the level. 15 crystal cores were close to 3 gold coins. The result of the calculation surprised Lin Feng. That day at the border of the ruined world, excluding the elite snow deer and rare earth erbium, he only earned 301 silver coins. Now, just one battle had already brought him close to this number. In this kind of one-on-one killing, he could obtain all the crystal cores, and the materials on the elemental beast would belong to the team. A high-level ancient warrior can earn nearly 100 gold coins a month in the ruined world. But a beginner ancient martial venerable can earn more than 1,000 gold coins a month in the wilderness. 10 times the difference. At this moment, Lin Feng finally understood. This was the difference between the ruined world and the wilderness. The difference was like heaven and earth. According to Yu Jie, I can earn 50 to 100 gold coins a day. If it's a month, it's about 1,500 to 3,000 gold coins. In 20 days, it will definitely exceed 1,000 gold coins. Lin Feng's eyes lit up. The speed of earning money was terrifying. This was also one of the reasons why he joined the Ice Lion Adventure Team. In 20 days, he could earn 1,000 gold coins to treat Ali's illness. Chapter 87. The first battle that seemed to be a grand one actually ended in less than 5 minutes. The beast horde led by 2 high-level beast generals was not weak. In the ruins, it was enough to make most adventure teams suffer. However, in the wilderness, this was just an ordinary battle because there was not even a beginner elemental beast king. Lin Feng, your saber technique realm is very high, huh? Photon Co. was full of praises. Peak of the third realm. Ice Rose looked over with less coldness. Lin Feng nodded and smiled. He could feel the changes in everyone's gazes. It was a form of acknowledgement. Oh, Photon Co. combed his hair with both hands and said in surprise, "Then isn't he stronger than Lemon and Flea?" Stupid. Flea glared at her. Realm is just a part of one's ability. Who are you calling stupid? Stupid Flea. Photon Co. glared at him, and her hair shone. Do you believe that I will shoot you? Flea rolled his eyes at Photon Co., put away his knife and dagger, and left in a flash. F***CK. Photon Co. mumbled. Ignore them. They are already used to arguing. The stone lion revealed a simple and honest smile and patted Lin Feng's shoulder. How do you feel? I earn money very quickly, Lin Feng blurted out. The stone lion was stunned. Then, Photon Co. burst into laughter. Even Ice Rose revealed a rare smile. All right. The stone lion smiled helplessly. Previously, Lemon said that your ability is on par with hers. I did not believe her then. The stone lion looked at Lin Feng and nodded in satisfaction. I did not expect my academy to produce such a young expert like you. Not bad. Boss, stop praising yourself, Photon Co. said happily. Lin Feng is an ancient martial artist. The stone lion smiled. He was not angry at Photon Ko's teasing. Lin Feng smiled when he saw this. When he was in Jiayang District's Elementary Genetic Academy, he had always thought that Dean Shi was a dignified elder. However, after interacting with him for a short while, he realized that Dean Shi was actually an amiable elder. He did not put on airs at all. However, Lin Feng, your fighting style is a bit too big and relies too much on your movement technique. It's very likely to be at a disadvantage in a group battle, especially when facing those elemental beasts with special offensive abilities. The stone lion said seriously. For example, porcupines and hedgehogs can easily absorb D-grade aluminum and C-grade cadmium and release strong electric currents. Once you get hit, it will be very troublesome. I understand, Captain. Lin Feng nodded seriously. Yes, take your time. As a newcomer to the wilderness for the first time, your performance is already very good. The stone lion smiled sincerely. Later, I'll have Ice Rose show you the correct way to attack the elemental beasts. Vice Captain, isn't she an archer? Lin Feng sneered. The stone lion laughed heartily. She's from the Cold Blade School. Her blade skills aren't any worse than yours. Zong. Ice Rose unsheathed her dagger and looked over. She said calmly, even if you are an archer, you must have basic close combat skills. Lin Feng nodded in realization. If he was an archer, he would also cultivate close combat skills. Haha, Lin Feng, you're in luck. Liang Guang laughed and said, Sister Ice is one of the top 10 experts of the Cold Blade School. Like you, her blade skills have reached the peak of the third realm. However, her blade skills are still slightly inferior to arrows. Of course, she's much better than you and Lemon. After a short rest, everyone followed the path marked by the flea and moved forward. Lin Feng carefully thought about Dean Shi's teachings as he walked and learned a lot. Indeed, he had only faced a small number of elemental beasts, and they were all strengthening type. If he had faced electromagnetic type or light type elemental beasts, it wouldn't have been so easy. There weren't so many tricks in a one-on-one battle. However, a one-on-one battle was obviously different from a one-on-one battle. Suddenly, ding, the crisp sound rang again. The stone lion said in a low voice, C02. C02. More than 20 elemental beasts. The strongest beginner beast king? Lin Feng's heart skipped a beat. He quickly calculated in his mind. Compared to the first battle, this was a real battle in the Savage Lands. Beginner beast king. Let me. Ice Rose stepped forward calmly. She glanced at Yu Meng and then at Lin Feng. I'll only demonstrate once. Watch carefully. Okay. Lin Feng and Yu Meng answered. Xiaoling also held her breath and opened her eyes wide. Rumble, rumble. The ground shook again. Lin Feng looked over. He could clearly see Flea's figure moving left and right as if dancing on the tip of a knife. From time to time, electric currents and white lasers would shoot out from Flea's back. However, Flea seemed to have eyes on its back and could dodge them all. So powerful, Lin Feng exclaimed. At least in terms of movement techniques, he was far from Flea's. The Ninth Cloud sect is indeed worthy of being the head of the four martial sects of Sunset City. Lin Feng looked at Flea's footsteps carefully. It was perfectly in sync with his Heart Sutra. It seemed to be connected by a thread. It was very strange. The Ninth Cloud sect's Heart Sutra, Ninth Cloud Sky, was known for its movement techniques. With a thought, Xiao, Ice Rose shot out like an arrow. Her speed wasn't fast, but it had a unique rhythm. Slow, fast, slow, fast. Every step was self-adjusting. Clang! The dagger in her right hand was unsheathed. Ice Rose bent down and plunged into the group of elemental beasts. Her figure was very small. However, her movements were decisive and ruthless. Chi! With one slash, she cut open the stomach of the iron antelope at the front. Roar! The iron antelope's eyes were blood red as it went crazy. At this moment, behind the iron antelope, several lightning arrow boars charged forward. Their arrows shot out powerful electric currents as they crazily attacked Ice Rose. However, Ice Rose used the iron antelope as an axis and began to spin. Chi! Chi! The dagger technique was concise. Every slash was aimed at the vital points. It was clean and neat, using the least effort to obtain the most results. Lin Feng quickly understood. As a genetic warrior, he focused on efficiency. Every slash was clean and neat, simplifying the situation. However, Ice Rose was different. She didn't fight the elemental beasts head-on. Instead, she chose to attack the enemy's weak points. Every slash saved a lot of energy. She could use less than half of the heaven and earth energy for the same attack. The battles in the wild zone were endless. No one knew what would happen in the next second or what kind of accident would happen. Conserving a bit of energy meant having a higher chance of survival. Or earn more money. Other than saving energy and attacking the vital points, there's another key: borrowing strength. The elemental beasts were much bigger than the battle grandmasters. With this huge body, Ice Rose could hide her body effectively and reduce the range of attacks. She could also dodge the powerful long-range attacks from the rear. She only needed to fight at close range. It was a special technique. She had accumulated hunting experience from countless battles. In less than a minute, Ice Rose killed more than 20 elemental beasts. Only the beginner elemental beast king was left. Instantly, a cold light broke through the sky. Along with the extremely cold air, the elementary level elemental beast king was frozen. It roared furiously, and its movements were slowed down. The hidden power of Frost Force. Lin Feng's eyes were sharp. The Frost Force was the Frost Force sect's signature technique. It had 4 levels. It was on the same level as the boundless sea of Qi. The hidden power of the Heart Sutra was very strong. Although the beginner elemental beast king was furious and wasn't much weaker than Ice Rose, it couldn't use its full strength because of its limited movements. In less than half a minute, its head was cut off by Ice Rose. It groaned in pain and fell into a pool of blood. Ta! Ice Rose stopped in her tracks, her expression calm and composed. To her, this was just a small test. She learned a lot. This was a valuable lesson for both Lin Feng and Yumeng. With my strength, it wouldn't be hard to beat back this wave of elemental beasts, but to do it so effortlessly. Lin Feng closed his eyes and recalled the battle with Ice Rose. When he put himself in the shoes of the battle, he inexplicably felt as if he was in a vast ocean, and the feeling of a small fish swimming in it was incomparably pleasant. Using the least strength to exchange for the biggest gain. Wasn't this the essence of a small fish swimming? In the haze, Lin Feng seemed to find a faint shadow. It was blurry yet clear. I paid too much attention to the steps of a small fish swimming. I neglected the essence of an ancient warrior, intent. The sword technique had intent. Why didn't the movement technique have intent? Lin Feng had an epiphany. Chapter 88. What's wrong with him? Flea asked. I don't know either. Photon shrugged and smiled bitterly. Ask Sister Ice. Lin Feng has comprehended. Ice Rose's voice was calm, but her eyes were glowing as she looked at the figure in front of her. At this moment, Lin Feng's figure was like a ghost. He was sometimes fast and sometimes slow. Behind him, the waves were faintly discernible. Flea looked at Lin Feng with a complicated gaze. Body intent? Yes. Ice Rose was speechless. She had only demonstrated a small trick to deal with elemental beasts, but Lin Feng had comprehended body intent. She didn't know how Lin Feng had comprehended it. Even she hadn't comprehended it to this level. In the team, only Flea had comprehended body intent, because he was from a ninth firmament sect. Are we just going to wait here? Flea was anxious. Set up camp here and cultivate. Sure looked at Flea and said seriously, I know you lack money, but since Lin Feng is our comrade, we have to treat him equally. It doesn't matter if he is new or not. This is the rule of the adventurer team. Also, for a warrior, enlightenment is something that can only be obtained by chance. All right, 2 people in a team. Everyone will take turns to be on guard. Sure looked at Yu Meng. Lemon, I will go with you first. Okay, Lion King. Yu Meng smiled charmingly. In the capsule alloy house, the military tent was set up. Ice Rose and the other 3 started cultivating first. The advantage of being an adventurer team was that everyone took turns to be on guard. This way, they didn't have to worry about danger. Back then, when Lin Feng was alone in the wilderness, he had to be on guard. Also, the wilderness and the wilderness were not on the same level of danger. Normally, adventurer teams' training and cultivation time ratio was 1:1. They started at sunrise and rested at sunset. The first team, sure, Yu Meng. The second team, Ice Rose, Xiaoling. The third team, Photon Flea. The distribution of strength was very balanced. In fact, both Yu Meng and Xiaoling were slightly lacking in strength. However, with Sure and Ice Rose, it wasn't a big problem. They killed a few elemental beasts sporadically. After all, they had just entered the Qinling Mountains not long ago. At night, the level of the movement technique. So this is what the Flea's movement technique feels like. It's as if there's an invisible string pulling it. However, it's actually not a string. It's a concept. For example, the concept of the saber moves drives the power of the saber moves. Lin Feng was sometimes still, sometimes moving. His comprehension was extremely clear. Naturally, he could sense everything that was happening in the outside world. How could he truly enter a state of enlightenment without any reservations in this desolate land that was filled with danger? If it wasn't for the fact that this sudden feeling could only be encountered by chance, he wouldn't have bothered his teammates. It's about time. As for the rest, I might as well slowly comprehend it in actual combat. He had already grasped that vague point. It was just like the state of the saber technique. It was an extremely important step to go from vague to beginner. Although the effects of the epiphany were pretty good, Lin Feng felt bad about letting his teammates guard him all the time. Just as he was about to take over from Flea and Photon, he suddenly felt something strange in his ears. Lin Feng's expression changed slightly. I seem to have an uncomfortable feeling. Flea's face darkened. Is there? Hua Guang carried the electromagnetic cannon and looked around casually. Suddenly, Lin Feng's figure flashed and appeared in front of the 2 of them. Lin Feng? Hey, you're awake. Flea and Hua Guang had different expressions. There's danger. Lin Feng looked straight ahead to the left. His eyes were shining. He could vaguely see some extremely weak lights in the distance. Those were not real lights, but the eyes of elemental beasts. In terms of sensing ability, Lin Feng, who could absorb spiritual energy, was naturally better than the 2 of them. Danger? Hua Guang was stunned. Flea looked around vigilantly and followed Lin Feng's gaze. His pupils dilated. It's a group of bats. Hua Guang, wake up the captain and the others immediately. Flea said anxiously. Elemental beasts that lived in groups, bats. Lin Feng's heart skipped a beat. He wasn't sure before, but with Flea's experience, he wouldn't be wrong. After all, he was an experienced 6-star hunter. They were in big trouble. On the war chariot, the captain, Sure, had mentioned that there were many bats in the Qinling Mountains. There were white-striped bats in the north and chrysanthemum bats in the south. Unlike other elemental beasts, bats that lived in groups loved the night the most. If they were targeted by a swarm of bats, it would be very troublesome. However, bat swarms rarely appeared at the borders of the wilderness. Why was it this time? There aren't many of them, about 100. Lin Feng looked ahead. It was very blurry before, but now he could clearly determine the number of bats. The swelling in his ears was getting heavier and even a little painful. That was the sound wave from the magnetic pole. All bats' crystal cores were electromagnetic type. Spiritual energy. Lin Feng's boundless ocean of energy appeared behind him. The pain in his ears eased instantly. The pitch-black shadows in front were getting closer and closer. Lin Feng's eyes flashed. In an instant, whoosh, like an arrow, it shot out. Lin Feng, Hua Guang, was shocked. Is he crazy? Flea's expression changed. Crazy? Of course not. There are 100 of them, and the strongest is only the beginner Beast King. Lin Feng's figure was like lightning. He could clearly tell from the magnetic pole sound wave attack. A group of about 100 chrysanthemum bats was a rare challenge for him. He was just worried that he wouldn't have a real opponent to fight against. Captain, Sister Bing. In an instant, Hua Guang, Ice Rose, and the others appeared. Where's Lin Feng? Hua Guang swept his gaze. Flea didn't even have time to speak before the energy of heaven and earth exploded in the distance. The bats' cries were especially ear-piercing in the silent night. Instantly, Ice Rose shot out like a stream of smoke. Hua Guang, Yu Meng, Flea, Hua Guang, and Xiao Ling also reacted. The battle had erupted. Whoosh, whoosh. The arrows arrived before the people did. With an extremely cold air, Ice Rose's arrows were like bright red roses. They went straight into the bat formation, taking away not only the lives of 2 magnetite chrysanthemum bats, but also the surrounding bats. Even the nickel field was frozen. Magnetite chrysanthemum bats. Hua Guang gasped. Hua Guang. Hua Guang's eyes flashed. Hua Guang looked forward, and his tense expression relaxed. When it came to a swarm of bats, what they feared the most was a swarm, not the strength of a single bat. 100 wasn't a large number. Looking at Lin Feng's figure, Hua Guang was shocked. Not only Hua Guang, but Ice Rose's eyes also flashed. She loosened the bowstring of her frostbow. Damn it! Hua Guang reacted quickly. She opened and closed her Geno armor arms. 2 medium-sized magnetic pistols were set up in less than half a second. Yu Meng used cobalt power. Her arms flashed, and her body glowed red. Even the weakest Xiao Ling turned into mist. Regardless of danger, the ice lions had no cowards. But stop! Hua Guang's deep voice sounded. Everyone was shocked. Don't rush. Let's take a look at Lin Feng first. Hua Guang's eyes shone. Looking at the young man not far away, Hua Guang was shocked and curious. Chapter 89. Swimming like a fish. At this moment, Lin Feng was swimming like a small fish. He didn't dodge much, but the effect was very obvious. The densely packed magnetite horseshoe bats were actually a very frightening existence. Not only were they small in size, but they were also incomparably nimble. Most importantly, bats relied on ultrasonic detection to fly. Even if they had evolved into elemental beasts, it was still the same. Thus, no matter how many bats there were, their attacks were orderly and methodical. The general-level nickel magnetic horseshoe bats would naturally emit elemental energy from their nostrils. In elemental martial arts, it was called domain. Nickel domain. What the bat swarm emitted was the overlapping nickel domain. However, the strange thing was that Lin Feng was always able to find a gap in such a small space to dodge, which was strongly affected by the nickel domain. He was like an agile little fish in the ocean. The nickel magnetic horseshoe bats screeched as they were killed. More and more corpses appeared on the ground. Flee. The stone lion's deep voice sounded. Flee replied. Lin Feng's body intent. How's your understanding? The stone lion asked. First glimpse. Flee said in a deep voice. Now what would you do if it was you? The stone lion looked straight ahead. Flee snorted and said proudly, These nickel magnetic horseshoe bats can't hurt me at all. For what he could see, Lin Feng was occasionally injured by the bats while he was dodging. Luckily, the B3 grade antimony armor protected his vitals. Most of the injuries were superficial. The stone lion's voice was deep. Even an expert body intent can't escape unscathed from the overlapping nickel domain. Flea wanted to argue, but he didn't know what to say. It was the truth. The nickel domain affected, sure, Jean's body intent. Especially when the nickel domain was constantly changing. It was like running on an uneven track. It was hard to maintain balance while running. Also, there were hundreds of nickel magnetic ultrasonic waves. One of them was beginner Beast King grade. The Stone Lion's eyes lit up. As the captain and the defensive meat shield that was always at the front of the battle, no one knew elemental beast better than him. Flea's face turned green. His body intent was indeed very strong, but defense was his weakness. Hidden Dragon Sturgeon, 7 spinning slash, 4th move. He kept repeating this move, and it complemented Little Fish perfectly. The body moved like a sturgeon, and the blade was like a sturgeon devouring. Compared to the first 3 moves of the 7 spinning slash, the Hidden Dragon Sturgeon seemed to be more agile. His saber intent continued to sublimate as he executed it. Chila, a horseshoe bat, tore open a large piece of flesh on its left arm, but in an instant, Lin Feng's saber slashed through the center of its body. Different from the first 3 moves of the 7 spinning slash, the Hidden Dragon Sturgeon could quickly attack while its body was constantly changing, without stopping. It was very useful in group battles. Just like how fists could be divided into heavy fists, light fists, and piercing fists, the Hidden Dragon Sturgeon was the piercing fist of fists. I didn't expect that. My body intent hasn't improved. Instead, my saber intent has leveled up. Lin Feng smiled calmly. The Ash Wolf War saber in his hand swung out, adding a touch of agility to it, and the explosive power instantly multiplied. Everyone who was watching the battle was shocked. He had thought that Lin Feng's strength would weaken after a long battle, and it would become more and more difficult for him. However, the truth was the opposite. The more he fought, the braver he became. His body could be said to be riddled with injuries, but Lin Feng still acted as if nothing had happened. Xiaoling's beautiful eyes flickered as she looked at Lin Feng's figure. She no longer had the shame and anger from before. Instead, it was replaced with envy and admiration. Yu Meng smiled as she looked at Lin Feng. Looking at this student that she had personally discovered, she was very satisfied. His saber is even stronger. The Stone Lion's voice was deep. Battle College's 7 spinning slash, the 4th move, Hidden Dragon Sturgeon. Ice Rose was still pulling the bowstring fully. Regardless of whether Lin Feng was safe or not, as the vice captain, she had to ensure Lin Feng's absolute safety. As long as there was danger, her arrow would be shot at the first moment. She didn't put a mere 100 nickel magnetic horseshoe bats in her eyes. Oh. Impressive, Lin Feng, Hua Guang shouted, looking abnormally excited. Flea was the only one who looked at Lin Feng with a complicated expression. It was a feeling of being defeated. The battle was still ongoing. However, the scales were completely tilted towards Lin Feng's side. 70, 60, 50. In the blink of an eye, more than half of the nickel magnetic horseshoe bats were killed. Lin Feng's bravery finally attracted the most ferocious attack of the nickel magnetic horseshoe bats. Bat King. It was twice the size of a normal nickel magnetic horseshoe bat, but it was twice as agile. It attacked like lightning. Not far away, Ice Rose's eyes glowed. She knocked an arrow and aimed. Beginner Beast King had already exceeded Lin Feng's strength. Pa! Suddenly, a pair of thick palms blocked the bow. Ice Rose was slightly startled. Don't underestimate him. The Stone Lion's voice was deep and powerful. Beginner Beast King. To be able to defeat him in a one-on-one battle meant that he was a 7-star adventurer. In the entire Ice Lion adventurer team, there were only 2 7-star adventurers, Hua Guang and Sure One. Also, Hua Guang's so-called one-on-one battle was an exaggeration. If they found a good ambush point, not to mention a beginner Beast King, even a middle Beast King wouldn't be difficult for the long-range firepower. Nickel Magnetic Horseshoe Bat King. Bats that lived in a group definitely had a king. The Beast King's nickel magnetic horseshoe bat not only had a stronger nickel domain released by its nostrils, but its toenails also had a strong poison. Yu Meng and the others had to resist the nickel-magnetic ultrasonic waves. It's finally out. Lin Feng was filled with fighting spirit. Even though he was surrounded by the bats, he was still vigilant against this Bat King. Bat-type beginner Beast King was known for its speed. However, to someone like him who had comprehended body intent, this was the weakest elemental Beast King. Chi. Lin Feng's arm was cut open again. It was a shocking sight. The Bat King's speed was unexpectedly fast. Lin Feng instantly felt numb. He was already prepared for it. He used up all the nickel force that had entered his body with his spirit energy. In a flash, the nickel-magnetic horseshoe Bat King attacked again. As Lin Feng retreated, his boundless sea of qi instantly erupted. Fourth layer. Lin Feng's aura instantly increased. Behind him, waves surged. Previously, when he was dealing with ordinary nickel-magnetic horseshoe bats, he had only used the second layer of boundless sea of qi. However, when dealing with a Beast King, the third layer was too dangerous. Let's end this quickly. Lin Feng's Ash Wolf Battle Blade roared. He attacked as fast as a sturgeon. This Bat King was very dangerous. It would consume a lot of spirit energy to injure him. If this Bat King cooperated with other nickel-magnetic horseshoe bats, it would be very difficult to kill it. Boom! The Bat King's speed was extremely fast, but Lin Feng's attack speed was even faster. The perfect grade Hidden Dragon Sturgeon's battle prowess exploded. Behind Lin Feng, waves that were more than 20 meters tall surged and condensed. They surged like the roar of a sea god, endless. This Bat King's strength was much stronger than Huang Shang's. However, the current Lin Feng didn't need to use spirit energy at all. Just the energy of heaven and earth. He already had an overwhelming advantage. Die. Lin Feng's battle intent was astonishing. Although his body was being attacked crazily by the other nickel-magnetic horseshoe bats, the Ash Wolf Battle Blade followed up with the second move with the strongest single-target attack, Flying Fish Spin. Chi. The Bat King let out a miserable cry. Die. In less than 3 seconds, even someone as strong as the Bat King was killed in a single strike. Looking at Lin Feng, who was still trapped in the nickel-magnetic horseshoe bats, the members of the Ice Lion Adventure Team were deeply shocked. That was an elementary Beast King. Chapter 90. Awesome. Even a high and the rest aren't that powerful. Photon couldn't help but say. High was the melee attacker of the Ice Lion Adventurer Team. The Magnetite Horseshoe Bat King was a difficult Beast King to deal with. Its defense was weak, but its speed and agility made up for it. Its attack wasn't strong either, but its toes were poisonous. Plus, it could also release elemental martial arts equivalent to a Geno warrior's. Nickel Domain, second level. Plus, bats usually moved in groups. It wasn't easy to kill them, but Lin Feng did it. Lemon, good introduction. Sure, gave Yu Meng a thumbs up. His judgment was correct. Lin Feng did have the ability of a 7-star adventurer. Plus, he was at the upper level of a 7-star adventurer. Yeah. Yu Meng smiled faintly, but her chest was moving up and down. Others didn't know, but as a member of the Elemental Business Alliance, she knew this was far from Lin Feng's true ability. He didn't use spirit qi. Yu Meng's beautiful eyes flashed. When he defeated Huang Shang, Lin Feng's boundless sea of qi was only at the 2nd level. How long has it been? He actually comprehended the 4th level of Mystic Level 8 and even the hidden power? It was shocking. To Yu Meng, it was unbelievable. From what she knew, Senior Instructor Li Tong had yet to reach the 4th level of Boundless Sea of Qi. Boundless Sea of Qi, Ice Rose murmured. No wonder he could defeat this super genius of Elite Crown Academy. A rare smile appeared on Ice Rose's face. To her, this was a true acknowledgement. Lin Feng's arrival had greatly increased the team's ability. Xiao Ling clenched her fist. In her heart, she had already set Lin Feng as her goal. After the Bat King was killed, the rest of the Magnetite Horseshoe Bats were no longer a threat. In less than 10 minutes, they were all killed by Lin Feng. The ground was littered with corpses, which were equivalent to a ground full of gold coins. Lin Feng couldn't help but smile. In the southern part of Qinling Mountain, there were only 2 types of horseshoe bats. One was the horseshoe bat with a D-grade beryllium crystal core. The other was the magnetite horseshoe bat with a C-grade nickel crystal core. Both of them were magnetic elemental crystals. However, the nickel magnetic horseshoe bat was 10 times more expensive than the beryllium bat. For example, a C3 nickel crystal was worth 5 gold coins, while a D3 beryllium crystal was only 50 silver coins. "Are you all right, Lin Feng?" Yu Meng asked with concern. Beside her, Xiaoling's eyes were filled with worry as well. During the entire battle, Lin Feng had been injured by the magnetite horseshoe bat at least a few dozen times. "It's just a flesh wound. Lin Feng should be fine." Stone Lion's deep laughter rang out as he walked over with Ice Rose. "Captain, sorry to trouble you this time," Lin Feng said apologetically. His gaze fell on Ice Rose. Lin Feng bowed slightly. "Thank you, Sister Ice." Even in the midst of an intense battle, Lin Feng could still clearly feel the cold and powerful aura behind him. It was not attacking him, but protecting him like a net. Although Sister Bing looked cold on the outside, her heart was very gentle. "It's a small matter." The Stone Lion smiled. "Amazing, Lin Feng, you brat." Photon laughed heartily, her eyes shining. TSK. No one other than Boss and Sister Bing can take on 100 magnetite horseshoe bats by themselves. Lin Feng smiled. If it wasn't for his comprehension of body intent, he probably wouldn't have been able to take on 100 magnetite horseshoe bats. How should we split this batch of magnetite horseshoe bats? On the other side, Flea had already finished collecting all the materials. Stone Lion was slightly startled. According to the original rules, since Lin Feng killed it alone, the crystal core will go to Lin Feng. The rest of the materials will be split between the 5 of us. Xiaoling was not included in the headcount because she had only entered the wild world to train. Moreover, Xiaoling was very rich. That's not right, right? Flea frowned. Lin Feng nodded. Originally, everyone should have killed it together. "Captain, let's split the crystal core and the materials," Lin Feng said apologetically. "I'm really sorry to have wasted a few hours of your time." "I don't want it." Photon spat. "I don't want it either." Yu Meng shook her head. Ice Rose turned and left. Her attitude was very clear. Stone Lion looked at Lin Feng and smiled. "Everything should be done according to the rules. Take it. We don't lack that bit of money. Your increase in strength means that we can hunt even stronger elemental beasts." After pausing for a moment, Stone Lion said softly, "If you want compensation, I'll leave today's and tomorrow's guard duty to you." Lin Feng smiled and nodded. "No problem." The night passed silently. Everyone cultivated peacefully. Lin Feng had comprehended enough to stabilize his strength. Little fish, swimming body intent, elementary. 7 spinning slashes, 4th move, hidden dragon sturgeon, perfect. Lin Feng was very satisfied. He had already gained a lot on the first day. The current him didn't need to rely on spirit energy to defeat a beginner beast king. Of course, this was already his limit. The benefits of killing a beginner beast king and killing a high-level beast general were very different. With the operation of the boundless sea of Qi, Lin Feng absorbed the energy of heaven and earth like a whirlpool. He wasn't cultivating, but just recovering his mental state. After all, he had to split half of his consciousness to guard the surroundings. Even so, the efficiency of the 3rd level of the boundless sea of Qi had already surpassed the 4th level. The energy of heaven and earth in the wilderness was too abundant. If I cultivate with the 3rd level of the 9 Dragon scripture, the efficiency would be unimaginable, Lin Feng secretly exclaimed. The speed of a 9 Dragon scripture absorbing the energy of heaven and earth was 10 times faster than the 4th level of the boundless sea of Qi, in the depths of the Qinling Mountains. Roar! A 20-meter-tall, ruthless black bear roared. Its entire body's fur was crystallized to the extreme. Its giant paws could smash everything. Although its body was huge, its movements were extremely agile. Its paws brought about strong winds as it moved as fast as lightning. The power of antimony formed an astonishing power. This was a wild black bear king that had cultivated to the extreme. A high-level beast king. However, radium triple sword. A handsome young man wearing A-class Geno armor was in midair. As he waved his arms, 3 sword lights intersected and shone brightly. The radium power condensed into 3 10-meter-long laser lights that instantly broke through the defense of the wild black bear king. Roar! The wild black bear king was in extreme pain and was hysterical. Go to hell. The handsome young man's lips curled into a cold smile. In midair, his 2 palms formed the shape of a tower. As he shouted, the shocking radium power condensed at a terrifying speed. It condensed into a lightning-like ball of laser light. As he shouted, it exploded and flew out. Boom! The radium ball, followed by 3 laser lights, went straight into the heart of the wild black bear king. Suddenly, chi, cracks appeared on the wild black bear king's body. Endless light shone through the cracks, accompanied by a shrill roar. In an instant, flesh and blood flew everywhere and exploded into pieces. The remaining radium power wandered in the air, making a buzzing sound like an electric eel. Thud! The handsome young man with the radium power landed on the ground. In front of him was a field of corpses. There were thousands of elemental beast corpses, and there were also 2 Geno warriors' corpses. The captain is so strong. 1 against 3. A high-level beast king is just SOSO. There were compliments and flattery. A dozen young men gathered around. They were all wearing Geno armor. Their armor was stained with blood, but it was unclear whether it belonged to the elemental beasts or themselves. One of the young men had a dragon tattoo on his arm. His eyes were bright. It was Sher Wulong. Dragon-killing god Wind Team, 7th Team. The captain, Erengia, was the handsome young man with the radium power. He was surrounded like a moon surrounded by stars. 2 more dead. One of the young men said with regret, their skills were not good enough. Their deaths are not regrettable. The radium power in Erengia's hand disappeared. He clenched his fist and opened it. His lips twitched. Dragon-killing god Wind Team needs the best of the best. We don't need these trash who can't even fight elemental beasts. The group of youths nodded their heads and looked at Captain Erengia with a fawning and fearful gaze. It was very contradictory, but it was reality. Their combined power might not be able to beat the captain. A high-level beast king could fight 1 against 3, and an elite high-level beast king could fight 1 against 1. That showed how strong Erengia was. He was invincible under the savage class. Okay, let's get to work. Erengia raised his hands. Aside from his left and right hands, the rest of the young men went to collect materials. In the 7th Team, he was very powerful. Captain, about the thing I mentioned to you last time, Sher Wulong said carefully. You found them. Erengia closed his eyes. He used his Geno power to absorb the smell of blood. Erengia was a clean freak. Yes, I have contacted the dragon team. Sher Wulong's eyes were bright. Okay, Erengia said impatiently. Don't report about sesame green beans anymore. Tell me, when you find that Ice Lion adventurer team, we'll just wipe them out then. They are just an 8-star team. Why do we have to go through so much trouble? Okay, Captain. Sher Wulong's eyes flashed. He had been waiting for the captain to say that. By the way, Mr. Jia, don't you think the elemental beasts here are strange? Sharpshooter Ziyu asked. He and Sher Wulong were Erengia's left and right hands. Erengia opened his eyes. The smell of blood was gone, but he still looked unhappy. He took off his Geno armor and gave it to Sher Wulong. Give me a new one. Yes. Sher Wulong did as he was told. This was the 5th A-class Geno armor the captain had changed into since entering Qinling Mountain. What did you say? After putting on the new armor, Erengia looked a little better. Sharpshooter Ziyu's eyes were bright. We have encountered a lot of elemental beasts, and they are very strong. We are quite a distance away from Mount Hua, so the elemental beasts shouldn't be that strong. Erengia smiled coldly. Isn't it good to earn more and eliminate more trash? Mr. Jia, I think something is wrong. Sharpshooter Ziyu was silent for a while. I heard a lot of rare earth elements appeared in Ruin C02. Is there a connection? Huh. Erengia laughed. Do elemental beasts need rare earth elements? What do they need them for? Sharpshooter Zu frowned and did not speak. Okay, stop talking nonsense. Let's hurry. Irenja shouted, his eyes shining. I want more elemental beasts. The stronger they are, the better. I want to earn 500,000 quickly. I don't want to lose to the first and third teams. Let's go. Chapter 91. Hornless Dragon Adventurer Team? Lin Feng asked curiously. Yes, it's those bastards. Photon Ion cursed. They actually sneak attacked us. Despicable. Lin Feng nodded. The Battle of B04 in the wilderness was very tragic. According to Photon Ion, the two parties had a deep grudge because of an elemental beast fight. Later, something happened. In one ambush, 3 members led by a high were killed. The captain, Sure, was heavily injured. In the end, they had to rely on the Cobalt-type dazzling chariot to escape. It was already lucky that they weren't completely wiped out. As expected, the most terrifying thing in the wilderness is still people. It's hard to predict people's hearts. Lin Feng stood on the hillside and chatted with Photon Ion. A cruel battle had just happened at the foot of the hillside. The formation of 300 elemental beasts was terrifying. Fortunately, the strongest were only 3 mid-level Beast King. Otherwise, it would be troublesome. It was already the 12th day in Qinling. Lin Feng had basically adapted to the life here. It was simple and straightforward. According to Photon Ion, it was working during the day and resting at night. His strength had also improved by leaps and bounds. By the way, Lin Feng, how many low-level Beast King did you kill just now? Photon Ion suddenly asked. 23, Lin Feng answered. Damn! Photon Ion jumped up and stared at Lin Feng. Kid, you're good. Ever since you comprehended body intent, your strength has been flying. A few days ago, you were heavily injured by the raging Black Bear King. In just a few days, you're full of energy and actually killed 23 low-level Beast King. Do you want me to be seriously injured? Lin Feng laughed. In the Iceline Adventurer team, Photon Ion was the closest to him. The captain was more like a kind elder. Yujiao also treated him well, but now he had a desire to compete. Hee, just kidding. Photon Ion touched her swept-back hair and raised her eyebrows. She whispered, Kid, do you have any secret? Come, share it. Lin Feng laughed. Cut your hair, and I'll tell you. In your dreams. Kanko glared at her and gently combed her hair with both hands. This is my lifeblood. Lin Feng couldn't help smiling. How could there be any secret? Photon Liang was just saying it casually. However, it was true that he had been heavily injured by the barbaric Black Bear King a few days ago. He had done so because he wanted to comprehend the third move of the 7-spinning slash, Violent Shark Devour. Its powerful explosive power was very similar to the barbaric Black Bear King's attack. Although he had paid a small price, he had obtained a perfect comprehension of the Violent Shark Devour. It was worth it. Against the enormous Beast King, Violent Shark's Bite was several times more powerful than Flying Fish Spin. He had already comprehended the first 4 moves, and in addition to his elementary glimpsing body intent, his strength had increased by a lot. Furthermore, and it wasn't just these two, it's about to evolve. Lin Feng was filled with anticipation. The wilderness was not only rich in heaven and earth energy, but the density of spiritual qi there was also much higher than that of the cities. In addition to the hidden power of the 3rd stage of the 9-dragon scripture, Soul of the Earth was rapidly growing every day. From the size of the Dantian, it was slowly approaching 10%. It will reach the limit of transformation in 3 days at most. Lin Feng was very sure. Soul of the Earth felt as if it was slowly entering the saturation zone. It was very similar to that day. The difference was that Soul of the Earth was at the 1st stage, and now it was at the 2nd stage. Soon, Soul of the Earth would advance to the 3rd stage. There will be a great improvement in physical fitness. It's the same for strength. Lin Feng's eyes lit up as he gazed at the boundless mountain ranges in the distance. Soon, he would be able to challenge an intermediate Beast King. A fierce battle. 300 elemental beasts, among which 3 were intermediate Beast King and 28 were elementary Beast King. The lineup could be said to be luxurious. After collecting the flea materials, everyone retreated as fast as they could. The strong smell of blood could easily attract other elemental beasts. This time, they didn't move forward. Instead, they retreated, because Captain Shi and Yu Meng were slightly injured. Close combat was a face-to-face battle with elemental beasts. Injuries were common. "Are you okay, Yu Jia?" Lin Feng asked with concern. "It's just a small injury." Yu Meng moved her arm. Her face was slightly pale. She looked at Lin Feng with a complicated expression. "It's already so difficult for me to deal with one elementary beast king. Lin Feng, you can actually kill 23 elementary beast king alone." Yu Meng smiled bitterly. She was gratified and sighed. Comparisons were odious. When they entered the wilderness, she and Lin Feng were about the same strength. But it hadn't even been 10 days. Lin Feng had already left her far behind. "Lemon, you'll hurt your lungs if you compare yourself with this monster," Kuang Guang said. "That's right. He's too bad." Xiaoling rolled her eyes at Lin Feng. Lin Feng could only smile bitterly. After spending some time together in the wilderness, he realized that this girl wasn't a little princess. She wasn't unruly at all. She could endure hardships in the adventurer team and dared to fight with elemental beasts. Moreover, she was very kind. A few days ago, when he was heavily injured by the wild black bear king, Xiaoling cried very sadly. In the end, her tears were in vain. "Don't bully Lin Feng anymore." Shi smiled honestly. "If not for his second attack, we wouldn't have suffered such light injuries. Not to mention, we wouldn't have gained so much." "It's everyone's credit," Lin Feng said. He wasn't being modest. He was speaking the truth. Captain's strong defense, Sister Bing's strong sniping and crowd control, Kuang Guang's suppressive fire, Flea's scouting, it would be difficult for him to survive alone in this desolate area. "Don't think that it's enough just to talk." Kuang Guang glared. She combed her hair back valiantly. "You've earned at least 1,000 gold coins these days. You're only second to Sister Bing and Captain. You should at least share your wealth, right?" "No problem." Lin Feng smiled. "Okay, let's get back to the topic." Ice Rose's voice suddenly sounded. Everyone's eyes focused on her. "Lion King, Flea, do you feel that something is wrong?" Ice Rose's beautiful eyes cautiously scanned the surroundings. Yes. Flea's expression was serious. The stone lion sighed softly and said seriously, "Actually, I've felt that something was wrong since that night." Lin Feng nodded. Captain was referring to that night with the magnetic horseshoe bats. "It was too strange. I also thought that it was just a coincidence." Ice Rose's voice was clear. "But things have become more and more strange these days. The number of elemental beasts has increased, and they are getting stronger. There is still a long distance between here and the Huashan region. Logically speaking, a high-level beast king shouldn't appear here." Lin Feng's eyes lit up. That was the first and only high-level beast king he had ever seen. It was because of this battle that he truly witnessed Captain and Sister Bing's strength. One attacking and one defending, plus the fierce firepower of the photon electromagnetic cannon. They forcefully exhausted a high-level beast king to death. A high-level beast king was worth nearly 200 gold coins. The total profit from that battle was more than 400 gold coins. The uniqueness of the wilderness is far beyond our imagination, Shi said seriously. "Although I don't know what happened, I feel that we shouldn't go any deeper." "I agree." Ice Rose's face was as cold as ice. "That battle just now was almost our limit." Flea hesitated slightly and didn't say anything. "I'm fine with it." Kuang Guang brushed her hair that was blown by the wind. Lin Feng was about to speak when his heart skipped a beat. His bright eyes looked into the distance. Chapter 92. It was an arrow-like shadow. However, it couldn't escape Lin Feng's amazing dynamic vision. In an instant, he firmly remembered the true image of the shadow. It was 15 meters long and had silver barbs all over its body, emitting electric light. Its entire body was covered with silver scales, as if it was wearing a set of armor. Most importantly, there were no crystals on its body. Elite Elemental Beast. Quick, it's the Intermediate Elite Beast King, the Lightning Porcupine. Lin Feng shouted and instantly activated the 4th level of his boundless ocean of energy. Surging waves of energy erupted as he sprinted at his fastest speed. In the next moment, Ice Rose's eyes also shone brightly. While sprinting, she took down her ice bow and loaded an arrow. Her movements were smooth. Wow! Photon shouted excitedly. Flea also followed in an instant. Great joy! In the wilderness, elite elemental beasts were absolute treasures. Birds of a feather flocked together. They rarely lived with ordinary elemental beasts, so they basically appeared alone. Of course, elite elemental beasts were precious because of their value. An elite elemental beast was like a small treasure. It's cadmium, a grade C2 cadmium heart. Lin Feng's eyes shone. Every 3 levels of elemental heart was a grade. A grade C9, C8, and C7 were still calculated in thousands. A grade C6 cadmium heart was already worth tens of thousands. A grade C3 cadmium heart was worth 100,000. A grade C2 cadmium heart was probably 200,000 gold coins. The higher the grade, the more precious it was. An elite elemental beast crystal heart is about 1/10 of its price, which is 20,000 gold coins, including the rare materials on its body. The total price is about 40,000 gold coins. Lin Feng was abnormally excited. The entire Ice Lion Adventure team's income in 12 days was not even a quarter of this elite elemental beast. He couldn't miss it, but the distance didn't seem to be close. He couldn't catch up? Lin Feng frowned slightly. He suddenly understood that his speed was still at the beginner level of ancient martial venerable. Although the lightning porcupine king in front of him wasn't known for its speed, it was at least an intermediate elite beast king. Spirit Chi. Lin Feng instantly accelerated. At this moment, how could he hold back? His speed instantly doubled. Ice Rose, who was behind Lin Feng, was stunned. She was naturally faster than Lin Feng, but Lin Feng's reaction was slightly faster. But now she had been abandoned. Ice Rose was a little dazed. Whoosh! Whoosh! One chased after the other like a gust of wind and lightning. Lin Feng shortened the distance between them at an extremely fast speed. Looking at the huge monster in front of him, it was as if he was looking at a pile of gold coins. Killing this intermediate elite beast king would earn him 40,000 gold coins. At the end of last month, a 7-man squadron returned from the C02 ruin world with a total of 30,000 gold coins worth of rare earth elements, causing a stir in Sunset City. This was far beyond the top income of the ruin world, and it required a lot of luck. But in the Wildlands, it was only the price of an elite beast king. He only needed strength. Hidden Dragon Sturgeon. Lin Feng launched an attack. The Grey Wolf battle blade swam like a sturgeon, and a majestic electric current exploded in front of him. At the moment of contact, Lin Feng felt his right hand go numb. If not for his strong spirit chi, the Grey Wolf battle blade would have fallen out of his hand. With his strength, he could only fight with this lightning porcupine by using spirit chi. However, the amount of spirit chi was not much. Lin Feng did not have the advantage. Roar! The lightning porcupine was enraged by Lin Feng's attack. After fusing with the elemental heart, it already had elementary intelligence and knew that the enemy behind it was faster than it. Zap! Zap! Violent electric currents shot out from the silver needle-like barbs. The lightning porcupine's attack was extremely domineering. There was no gap. Lin Feng quickly retreated, but he had no choice. If he fought head-on, his spirit chi would be quickly exhausted. There was no other way to break through this dense electric net. Suddenly, whoosh! A red light flashed in front of him. Lin Feng's eyes lit up. Ta! Stopping his retreat, Lin Feng tightened his grip on the Grey Wolf battle blade. The surging waves whistled through the sky like the roar of the sea god. Lin Feng increased his speed again. Behind him, there were 2 more sounds of air being pierced. At this moment, the first red light had already penetrated the electric net and shot into the lightning porcupine's body. Chi! A crisp sound. The archery was godlike. Roar! The lightning porcupine was furious. Its face was filled with pain. A layer of ice condensed on its body and spread out in an instant. In an instant, the second and third red light appeared. One directly hit the dense electric current, producing a violent explosion sound. The other penetrated the electric net and shot towards the lightning porcupine's head. Roar! Hysterical and furious, the lightning porcupine condensed a huge electric ball above its short horn. Its power was extremely violent as it collided with the red light. Rumble! It was as if lightning struck the earth. The lightning porcupine's tyrannical attack shattered the red light, but the layer of ice caused its movements to slow down a little. At this moment, violent shark bite, Lin Feng's strongest attack broke through the electric net. Excellent control of time. The waves behind him were more than 20 meters high. The blade light was like a furious giant shark that crazily devoured the lightning porcupine, breaking through the violent electric current. Lin Feng's blade contained an astonishing amount of spirit energy. Chi! The blade fell. The lightning porcupine let out a miserable howl as its defense was shattered. Behind him, 2 more arrows followed like shadows. Xiao! Xiao! The 2 consecutive arrows pierced through the lightning porcupine's head. The 15-meter-long figure could no longer make any sound. Blood gushed out and it fell down with a rumble. What a terrifying arrow, Lin Feng said to himself. With his strength, the possibility of defeating this lightning porcupine one-on-one was not high, unless he used the 9-dragon scripture. However, with Sister Bing's assistance, it was almost effortless to kill it. The battle didn't even last 5 seconds. Previously, his role in the team had always been to clean up. He had never cooperated with Sister Bing like this. This was the first time. It left a deep impression. Lin Feng wasn't the only one who was shocked. Ice Rose stood in the distance and put down the frost bow in her hand. Her beautiful eyes flickered as she stared at Lin Feng not far away. She couldn't calm down. He was unfathomable. Ta! Hua! Sure, Flea, Photon, Yumeng, and Xiaoling arrived one after another. Their eyes were filled with astonishment. It was over? This was an intermediate elite beast king. How could a high-level beast king, whose strength was comparable to a weak one, be killed in the few seconds it had taken them to arrive? Was this a joke? Sister Bing, awesome. Photon gave a thumbs up with a face full of admiration. Sister Bing, you are too awesome. Xiaoling's eyes were filled with admiration. Sure, and Flea looked at the dead lightning porcupine and found it hard to believe. However, when they saw the rows like arrows on the porcupine's body and the pool of blood, the result was clear. However, other than the arrow wounds on the porcupine's body, there seemed to be blade wounds? Sure, and Flea were confused. I didn't kill it, Ice Rose suddenly said. Her calm voice contained a hint of curiosity as her beautiful eyes stared at Lin Feng. This lightning porcupine's fatal attack came from Lin Feng. The 2 words were spat out from her red lips, slowly and gently. However, it was like a heavy bomb had exploded. Chapter 93. Subscribe. 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 3 meals and 9 kowtows. Dear parents, Xiao Xiao has already made the theme clear at the beginning of the speech. If this speech was an essay, it would have gotten at least 60 points. For mid-level writers, subscriptions are the way to go. It is their source of income. Without subscriptions, there is no food to eat. How can they work if they don't have enough to eat? Therefore, I hope that everyone will subscribe more. Haha, how should I put it? It's finally on the shelves. After 4 books in a row, the last book, Fire Refines the Starry Sky, finally took off. Xiao Xiao had officially become a full-time writer. To be honest, the pressure is really great. This is different from working in a company and getting a stable salary. This book is profitable, but it doesn't mean that the next book will be profitable. Especially in recent years, there have been countless small gods and even great gods who have fallen in our line of work. Xiao Xiao has also been thinking for a long time. Should I give up this line of work and switch to a part-time job? But how should I put it? I don't like it. I don't like to be distracted by 2 things, and I don't want to give up this job that I like. I asked myself for a long time and finally came to a conclusion. I like this job. Every flower, every blade of grass, every tree, every piece of wood. I build the world in my imagination. That feeling is amazing. I enjoy the process of creation. I also understand that only by loving this job and devoting myself to it can I obtain the greatest rewards and success. Xiao Xiao won't say any emotional words. Let's just talk about the pen name. Why is it called Xiao Xiao Pig? Because I'm very small. You are the parents, so I'm small. I entered the line late and am still young. The other authors are all seniors, so I'm still small. Needless to say, the senior editors, I'm indeed the youngest. So I'll just call myself Xiao Xiao Pig. All right, let's not talk nonsense. A single chapter should at least have some substance. Let's talk about Blade Shattering the Milky Way. The inspiration for this book came from a comic. It should be the type that left a deep impression on Xiao Xiao. Speaking of which, I really think that humans have endless potential. Are there aliens? Isn't that nonsense? How many planets, how many solar systems, and how many Milky Ways were there? I want to say that there might be other intelligent races in the Milky Way, but they might not be humans. Life is amazing. The framework and worldview of the book were set very well by Xiao Xiao. The pace was also very fast. After all, fast paces were the mainstream. Moreover, Xiao Xiao liked Hong Kong dramas. Being carefree and unrestrained was the way to go. Earth was just a starting point. As for the protagonist, I think he would be considered a genius on Earth, but in the Milky Way, or even the entire universe, he would be extremely ordinary. Attentive readers should be able to get a glimpse of the follow-up from the introduction. That's right, it would basically be written, but Rong Xiao Xiao was keeping them in suspense. Let's talk about the update. Xiao Xiao's original plan was to guarantee a minimum of 3 chapters and increase the monthly votes. However, looking at the other authors, many of them were just trying to make a profit and ended up owing more than 100 chapters. All right, they had lost all their integrity. Xiao Xiao did not want to lie to him. How should she put it? Just do what you can. I'm not a god, and my talent isn't high either. That's why I set a goal for myself. Diligence makes up for stupidity. Since he couldn't catch up in other areas, he could only work hard on the updates. Xiao Xiao believed that she could complete it. Even if my speed was around 1,000/hour, I would have no problem writing 3,000 words per hour. But if he wanted to write well, he had to be meticulous. Now, Xiao Xiao needed around 10 hours to write 10,000 words. Adding on the post-editing, the working time would be around 1 hour a day. Blade Shatters the Milky Way. I hope this is a high-quality novel. I believe that I can complete it. Force myself to give myself more pressure and motivation. At the same time, I want to tell everyone my sincerity. I want to write this book well for myself, for my family, and for every reader who likes this book. Thank you. In the end, it's still the same sentence. Subscription, monthly votes, and recommendation votes. Your support will be Xiao Xiao's motivation to write. I want to fight for the monthly votes for my new book. It doesn't matter if it's late by 10 days. It doesn't matter if I'm overestimating myself. I think this is a matter of attitude and willpower. I believe that hard work will bring about miracles. Xiao Xiao is not afraid. No matter what, I will stubbornly fight until the end. Chapter 94. Fiery Gazes Converged. Lin Feng instantly became everyone's target. Sister Bing is being modest. Without her swift and decisive arrows, I wouldn't have been able to kill this frenzy, lightning porcupine king. Lin Feng looked at everyone's doubtful gazes and smiled bitterly. What he said was the truth, but the surrounding gazes seemed to be even sharper. You actually hid your strength. Kuang Guang's eyes widened. That's too much, although you have Ice Rose's assistance. But the slash that split open the head was enough to kill an ordinary mid-level beast king. The stone lion's eyes were like torches as he looked at Lin Feng and smiled. Xiaoling's beautiful eyes stared at Lin Feng as she bit her lips. Suddenly, she realized that the distance between her and Lin Feng wasn't closing. Instead, it was getting further and further away. Everyone stopped guessing. Lin Feng didn't mean to hide it. Yu Meng smiled as she looked at Lin Feng and nodded. Lin Feng understood. Actually, this wasn't a secret anymore. There was more than one person who knew. Yes, I awakened the soul of the earth. Lin Feng smiled faintly and frankly. As expected, Ice Rose nodded. She had been suspecting it all along. The soul of the earth. Flea was shocked. He looked at Lin Feng with jealousy in his eyes. Ancient martialists awaken the soul of the earth early? The stone lion was stunned. He suddenly smiled and said, "That's much rarer than gene warriors." Gene warriors' cultivation was to absorb geno fluid to increase their mind expanse. Hence, the soul of the earth was also slowly growing. But ancient martialists were different. Most ancient martialists increased their mind expanse. Only a small portion of them increased their martial soul. Hence, it was much harder for ancient martialists to awaken the soul of the earth early than gene warriors. So, it's not that Lin Feng is hiding it. It's just that the spirit chi is scarce and can't be used often, Yu Meng explained. Everyone nodded in understanding. No matter how strong the spirit chi was, how could it be used if there wasn't enough? In the wildlands, there were hundreds and thousands of elemental beasts. They had to go through fierce battles one after another. Even so, the stone lion nodded and said that Huangshang also awakened the soul of the earth. A high-class Geno battle general has the fitness of a Geno battle elite. Lin Feng is a high-class ancient warrior. His fitness index is higher than Huangshang's. When he uses his spirit air, he can increase his fitness level. High-level ancient warrior general? Lin Feng was stunned. That's right. No one had asked him. It was as if they had all assumed that he was a high-level ancient martial arts general, including Brother Lei. The soul of the earth will become stronger and stronger. Ice Rose's beautiful eyes flashed with envy. When Lin Feng becomes a beginner ancient martial saint, his strength will undergo a qualitative change. At that time, our Ice Lion Adventure team will have a true main attacker. Then I'll be able to retire to the second tier. The stone lion smiled, not feeling unhappy at all. All right, Quanko shouted. He pulled Lin Feng into his embrace and lightly brushed his hair. He laughed mischievously and said, "Look, I told you that my swept-back hair would bring good luck." Everyone laughed happily. Soon, after collecting the materials from the elite wild lightning porcupine king, everyone set up camp to rest. First, the harvest was plentiful. Second, it was already dark. Third, the stone lion and Yu Meng were injured and needed to rest to recover. But before nightfall, everyone gathered in a circle and started to split the loot. 40,000 gold coins in profit. Everyone was extremely excited. One had to know that a beginner ancient martial saint only earned 1,000 gold coins a month. A mid-level ancient martial saint like Ice Rose earned around 3,000 gold coins. Moreover, this was earned by risking her life in the savage lands. But now this sum was a huge sum of 40,000 gold coins. First, this wild lightning porcupine king was found by Lin Feng. Take 10% of the share. The stone lion glanced at Flea. The latter's expression was ugly. After all, this share was usually his. Secondly, Lin Feng is the main killer and takes 50% of a share. Ice Rose is the auxiliary killer and takes 30%. We'll drink the remaining 10%. The stone lion smiled. 10% of the share was 4,000 gold coins. He, Flea, Liang Guang, and Yu Meng would each get 1,000 gold coins. Ignoring other factors, this was already a considerable amount of profit. Especially Yu Meng. After entering the savage lands, her total income was only around 200 gold coins. Awesome. Liang Guang smiled happily. I've never had such a good time drinking soup. The stone lion also smiled. Indeed, usually they would be happy if they could get more than 10 gold coins from drinking soup. This time they got 1,000 gold coins. This was definitely the biggest gain since the establishment of the Ice Lions Adventure Group. Leader, 60% is too much for me. Lin Feng shook his head. Without Sister Bing's assistance, I wouldn't have been able to kill this wild lightning porcupine king. Sister Bing and I should split the 80%. To be honest, Lin Feng wasn't a greedy person. The leader and the others didn't witness the whole process. Sister Bing was being modest, but he had no reason to take advantage of this. He shouldn't take it. There was no need to take it. 50% of the share was enough. Everyone looked at Ice Rose. She gave a rare smile. Although she didn't care about the 10% share, she appreciated Lin Feng's attitude. Since Lin Feng isn't willing to take this 10% share, then let's share it. Wow, Liang Guang's eyes lit up. Then we won't be polite, Sister Bing. The stone lion and Yu Meng smiled. Ice Rose came from a wealthy family. Just by looking at her car, one could tell. Damn it, he got it first. Flea was still angry. As a hunter of the Ice Lions Adventure Group, the 10% of the prey they found was always his. But this time, it was snatched by Lin Feng, and it was a share worth 4,000 gold coins. Night fell. Capsule Alloy House. 9 Dragons Scripture Level 3. Lin Feng's mind was immersed in the high-grade gene nourishment cabin. The gene fluid was being consumed rapidly. Behind Lin Feng, 3 gigantic dragons appeared. They seemed to be roaming about, exuding a majestic aura. His body seemed to have opened a door, crazily absorbing the energy of heaven and earth, including spirit chi. Too fast. In the wildlands, the ancient martial artist cultivation speed was shocking. It was comparable to normal Geno warriors. And for a talented ancient martial artist like Lin Feng, the efficiency was several times higher. In a short 12 days, he had cultivated in Sunset City for more than a month. With the gene energy absorption, Lin Feng could feel that he was very different from when he first entered the wildlands. His physical index had increased by a small level. Now, my brain region should be more than 10% open. If I'm lucky, before returning to Sunset City, I might become an intermediate ancient martial artist. My physical index will reach the intermediate ancient martial artist level. However, it should be the first to break through. In his inner vision, Lin Feng could clearly see that the soul of the earth was getting bigger and bigger. It was shining brightly. The soul of the earth's transformation had entered the countdown. He was looking forward to it. Chapter 95. Xiao. A red light flashed. It was extremely cold. The entire space seemed to be frozen. A giant beast that was emitting violent electric currents let out a deafening roar as it let out a miserable shriek. At this moment, boom! Lin Feng's blade was like a giant shark swallowing the beast. The timing was perfect. Lin Feng's weakness was instantly caught. The spiritual energy in Lin Feng's blade was astonishing. The blade surged with waves. The 14-meter-tall giant beast fell down unwillingly. The entire beast horde was in chaos. All right. Photon Ion's hearty laughter came from behind. Lin Feng jumped up in a split second. Boom, boom, boom. Like a continuous barrage of cannons, the photon electromagnetic cannons were fully unleashed. It was almost a sweeping explosion. The beast horde was immediately attacked. Lin Feng didn't stop at all. He went straight for Yu Meng on the right. After defeating the elite Lightning Porcupine King, Lin Feng's position in the team changed. Other than the fixed close combat cleaning mission, there was a new position: Ace Sniper. His coordination with Ice Rose was even better than Captain Shurshu's. This was because Lin Feng's explosive attack was extremely strong. So easy. Photon Ion combed her hair back. She looked relaxed. The strongest were the 2 mid-level Beast King. Lin Feng and Sister Bing took care of them in a few moves. How can it not be easy? Yu Meng laughed. In fact, she was also much more relaxed. She and Lin Feng were both offensive types. They couldn't display their full power in close combat. However, it was different with Captain Shurshu. One attacking and one defending, they complemented each other. Isn't it good to be a little more relaxed? Shurshu laughed. Lin Feng's growth. It greatly relieved him of the pressure. Although Shurshu was a mid-level martial saint, he was only a 7-star adventurer. His lack of attack power made him unable to kill a mid-level Beast King in a one-on-one battle. However, this weakness was always covered up because of Ice Rose's super strong support. Now, he could finally breathe a sigh of relief and return to his most suitable position. Why are you in a daze, Lin Feng? Yu Meng asked. There's a problem. Lin Feng looked at the corpses in front of him and frowned. Yu Jie, don't you think the elemental beasts we met today have a special characteristic? Characteristics? Yu Meng was slightly startled. It's a cadmium crystal core. Ice Rose walked over. Her beautiful eyes moved. Including this batch, We have already harvested hundreds of cadmium crystal cores. The stone lion also walked over. Including the cadmium crystal core I got yesterday, the amount of cadmium I got is a bit strange. Lin Feng nodded. What the captain said was exactly what he wanted to say. Usually, the crystal cores of the elemental beast he killed every day were scattered. From level E to level D to level E, you could basically see all kinds of them. However, the crystal cores obtained today were more than 20% cadmium crystal cores. The ratio was quite exaggerated. This was not the wilderness, but the wilderness. Coupled with the appearance of the elite berserk lightning porcupine king yesterday, it was hard not to have wild and fanciful thoughts. Cadmium crystal mine? Yu Meng's voice was filled with doubt. You're thinking too much. At this moment, Flea had already finished collecting the materials. He walked over. Although the Qinling Mountains are not like the ruins where there are no secrets, the outer area has been explored more than 100 times. How can it be a cadmium crystal mine? Then, how do you explain these cadmium crystal cores? Xiaoling asked curiously. It's probably a coincidence. Flea frowned. Flea is right. The stone lion nodded. There aren't many cadmium crystal mines in the Qinling Mountains. The probability of an undiscovered cadmium crystal mine appearing in the outer area is less than 1 in 1,000. I think we can give it a try. Lin Feng glanced at everyone. Compared to when he first entered the wilderness, he was much more mature. If rare earth elements can appear in the 02 ruins, why can't cadmium crystal mines appear in the outer area of the Qinling Mountains? The ruins seemed dangerous. However, that was only relative to ordinary warriors. All the warriors who entered the wilderness knew that there was nothing to gain from the ruins. Therefore, the appearance of rare earth elements in the 02 ruins caused a huge commotion. Lin Feng's words caused a heated discussion among the crowd. If they wanted to find cadmium crystal mines, they would have to go deeper into Mount Hua. The danger level would increase. Flea's objection was understandable. 5 minutes later, let's vote. The stone lion hesitated for a moment and said, Those who agree with Lin Feng, raise your hand. I have to agree. Huang Guang raised her hand with a big smile. Almost at the same time, Ice Rose and Yu Meng raised their hands. Flea's face turned pale. It seems that whether I vote or not, the result will be the same. The stone lion smiled and looked at Flea. Flea, I think that although we don't need to rush, we don't need to be too conservative. We haven't encountered any danger in the wilderness this time. Why don't we give it a try? There are challenges and risks. That's what an adventurer is. The stone lion patted Flea's shoulder. Moreover, we have an excellent hunter like you. Although Flea was displeased, he still nodded. I understand, Captain. Strength equaled the right to speak. Today, Lin Feng's status in the team was very different. It could be said that he was only below the stone lion and Ice Rose. His right to speak was higher than Flea and Huang Guang. This was obtained by Lin Feng's strength and achievements. Most importantly, because of Lin Feng's strength, the Ice Lion team was more confident in going deep into the Qinling Mountains. The Ice Lion team was ranked 8th in Sunset City. It was not an undeserved reputation. Their captain, Ice Lion, was very experienced. Deep in the Qinling Mountains. Captain, we have confirmed the location of the Ice Lion team. Shi Wulong bowed. Oh, is that so? Irenjia gathered the power of radium in his hands and casually played with it. The exact location? Yes, the exact location. Shi Wulong's eyes were sharp. Huh! The power of radium dissipated. Irenjia's lips curled into a playful smile. This Ice Lion team is really stupid. They want anyone. Twisting his neck, Irenjia looked ahead. It's almost time for us to go back. On the way back, I'll help you along the way. Thank you, Captain. Shi Wulong said happily and clenched his fists. Irenjia nodded. To be able to become his right-hand man, Shi Wulong was no ordinary person. The competition on Dragon Killing Island was very fierce. The first team, the third team, he also needed some reliable and capable subordinates. Shi Wulong was one of them. To win over talents, he had to be sincere. This was what his father had taught him. Young Master GF found it. An excited voice came from afar. Irengia looked over, his eyes flashing. It was his other right-hand man, the sharpshooter, Ziyu. Whoosh! Ziyu appeared excitedly. It's a grade D sodium crystal mine. Young Master Jia, we have found thousands of sodium crystals. The highest grade is grade D3. From the surface, this should only be about 5%. There is more than a 30% chance that there will be sodium cores in the depths of the mine. Tell me the total price. Irengia's eyes lit up. 50 to 100,000 gold coins. Ziyu's face glowed. With this income, it's worth 500,000 gold coins. Very good. Irengia laughed heartily. A large sodium crystal mine. Although it's not a grade 1, it's enough. This time I must win against the first and third teams. Let's go and take a look. Chapter 96. Crystal Mine Vein. Lin Feng had touched on it before in the Superbrains data. But the one who truly understood the two was the Ice Lion Adventure Team. To Lin Feng, it was better to travel 10,000 miles than to read 10,000 books. For him, the biggest gain from this trip to the Qinling Mountains was not money, but the broadening of his horizons and the acquisition of all kinds of knowledge, which made his future much clearer. The captain, Sure, and the vice captain, Ice Rose, were both very good teachers. After the Great Extinction, spirit energy grew, and all kinds of mineral veins were fully nourished and improved. Metal ores condensed spirit energy, and the elements in them would condense into elemental crystals. The purer the crystal, the higher the quality. When condensed to the extreme, it would be the elemental heart. Those that could condense into elemental crystals were called crystal mines. Those that could condense into elemental hearts were called crystal mines. Basically, a crystal mine would contain several or even dozens of crystal mines. And this was also the reason why Lin Feng wanted to explore further. The income from discovering an elemental crystal mine was not small, ranging from thousands of gold coins to tens of thousands or even hundreds of thousands. But if it was an elemental crystal mine, what would it be? Moreover, it was a level cadmium crystal mine. It would definitely be a sky-high price, because he had killed an elite lightning porcupine king and obtained a level 2 cadmium heart. Lin Feng was very sure that it might be a coincidence like what Flea said. But if it wasn't a coincidence, then it must be a level 2 cadmium crystal mine with a cadmium heart. At least hundreds of thousands of gold coins. The night in the Qinling Mountains was quiet. 12 hours a day. Lin Feng was in charge of the middle 3 hours. His body had just absorbed the high-level gene fluid and was in a saturated state. Lin Feng held the gray wolf saber in his hand. He was seizing the time to practice his saber technique. At night, he comprehended and pondered, and during the day, he practiced. Lin Feng's saber was constantly improving every day, although he was still far from the fourth realm of the saber technique, but at least his comprehension of the saber technique concept was increasing. 7 spinning slash, 5th move. Electric eel. The saber in the air seemed to be trembling. There was a faint wave in the afterimage. No, it doesn't feel like that. Like an electric eel, electricity. Electric eel. Lin Feng closed his eyes and gestured. For the past 2 days, he had been fighting against electric elemental beasts that had been fused with cadmium crystals. This had allowed him to improve his 5th move, electric eel, very quickly. Yesterday, he had mastered the saber will. Today, he had even vaguely found a path that would lead him to the perfect saber intent. They were getting closer and closer. It was as if he had found a shining point, but he was still missing something. The key was the intent. Lin Feng hesitated. Snore, snore. On the other side, Photon Ko was sleeping soundly, but she was heartless. This guy. Lin Feng smiled. Photon Ko was quite confident in herself. Suddenly, Lin Feng's ears twitched, and he turned his head to look not far away. His eyes narrowed. It was a very soft sound, but he did not hear it wrong. There's an elemental beast, Light Beam. Lin Feng shouted. Lin Feng's figure moved quickly. He pressed the button on the capsule alloy room's alarm and chased after him. His reaction speed was also very fast. He instantly set up his double-barreled magnetic pistols and loaded his electromagnetic cannon. His eyes shone brilliantly. So fast, In the blink of an eye, there was no trace of it. Judging by its size, it should be similar to a deer, antelope, and musk. Lin Feng looked around. Although his dynamic vision was excellent, it was only a flash of light and shadow just now. He only caught an afterimage. In fact, if it were not for the light sound of leaves, he might not have noticed it. It shouldn't be an attack. It's just a lone, elemental beast. Lin Feng thought softly in his heart. In the wilderness, it was very common, especially at night. Just as he was about to leave, the tip of Lin Feng's nose suddenly twitched. He sniffed, and a trace of uncertainty flashed in his eyes. This smell is musk? Deep in thought, Lin Feng sniffed lightly and searched for the scent. As expected, the scent became more and more obvious. Although it was only vaguely left in the air, it could be clearly distinguished. The scent is strong and lingers for a long time. It's musk, no doubt. Lin Feng was sure. In the Qinling Mountains, there were many elemental beasts of antelope and musk. Among them, there were mainly two kinds of musk. One was the small musk deer, and the other was the forest musk deer. It's a male forest musk deer. Lin Feng nodded. Only the male forest musk deer had musk glands and could secrete musk. Information about the forest musk deer suddenly appeared in his mind, and he kept thinking. The forest musk deer was a very timid elemental beast with a lonely temperament. It was not rare for such a forest musk deer to pass by at night, but at this time, only when excited will the male forest musk deer unconsciously release its musk. It should be resting at night. Why is this male forest musk deer so excited and galloping alone in the forest without fear of danger? Lin Feng's eyes lit up. Let's follow and see. Intuition told him that there must be a reason. Beep, 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 the crystal watch rang. Lin Feng glanced at it and opened the location sharing function. Before entering the wilderness, the members of the Ice Lion adventure team had shared each other's location for convenience and safety. Two possibilities. Following the scent, Lin Feng maintained a constant speed. While being vigilant of the surroundings, his brain was working quickly. The first possibility is that this male forest musk deer is an elite elemental beast. Elite elemental beasts did not work in groups. It was normal for them to be alone. The second possibility is that it encountered something that made it unusually excited, such as discovering something or going into heat. Lin Feng smiled. Suddenly, his smile froze. No, it's not going into heat. Could it be a female forest musk deer is giving birth? Forest musk deer go into heat in autumn, and the gestation period is about half a year. According to the time, swoosh. Lin Feng sped up again. His body was like lightning, and there was a glimmer of excitement and desire in his eyes. If he guessed correctly, this time there was a big surprise. In the dark night, whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Several figures were moving forward cautiously. Night was different from day. Traveling at night was a very dangerous thing, especially at night when visibility was lower. Many elemental beasts were better at ambushing and hunting in the dark. But at this moment, the Ice Lion adventure team still braved the danger and shuttled through the bushes. Captain, don't worry about Lin Feng. He will come back. Flea was running in front, looking nervous. What are you talking about? We are a team. Stone Lion's face was serious, and there was a hint of reprimand in his deep voice. His individualism will get us killed. Flea said anxiously. If you want to go back yourself. Guang Guang sneered. There are no cowards in the Ice Lion adventure team. What did you say? Flea said angrily. Enough. Ice Rose reprimanded. Don't say so much. Lin Feng is not a rash and impulsive person. He must have his own thoughts and reasons. There's only one thing we need to do. Trust him. Chapter 97. Thump. Thump. Lin Feng stepped on the cliff, his heart filled with anticipation. This area was very unfamiliar, and the terrain was extremely steep. If not for the musk in the air leading the way, the majority of adventurers would not come here. The more steep the terrain, the more dangerous it was. Once surrounded by elemental beasts, there was no hope of escaping. Fight! Lin Feng was never afraid of danger and challenges, not to mention this time. There might be a big surprise. Hidden Dragon Sturgeon. Lin Feng's blade was like a dagger in the dark night. Chi, chi, chi. Along the way, several elemental beasts that were awakened did not even have the chance to react before they were killed. To the current Lin Feng, a beast general could not even withstand a single blow. Whoosh! Lin Feng's body leaped, his brows slightly furrowed. There was only a narrow cliff road in front of him, and it was pitch black below. It was most likely a bottomless abyss. He had heard that the forest musk deer often traveled on mountain paths and steep cliffs. This time, he had seen it for himself. Should he go or not? Danger and opportunity coexist. Lin Feng firmly believed in his own judgment. The hand holding the gray wolf battle blade tightened. In a split second, his figure was like lightning, and he stepped on a narrow cliff road without hesitation. Arc! A huge arc. Lin Feng slowed down, cautiously moving forward. The musk at the tip of his nose became stronger and stronger, and he was even more certain. He was getting closer and closer to that forest musk deer. It was not that his speed was faster than it, but it was very likely that it had already reached its destination. And this destination, it was exactly what he was looking for. It was very quiet. What was out of Lin Feng's expectations was that he did not meet any elemental beasts on this cliff road. It was me who thought too much. Adventurers are afraid of falling into a bottomless abyss. Actually, elemental beasts are the same. Seeking fortune and avoiding calamity is a kind of instinct. 5 minutes later, after passing through the steep cliff, the front suddenly opened up. It was a desolate basin that was like a cracked porcelain bowl. At the center of the bowl was a dense expanse of bright rocks of various colors and sizes that were scattered all over the place. The most eye-catching ones. It was a silver-white crystal, or cadmium crystal. Lin Feng was greatly moved. In a split second, a small musk deer emitting electricity appeared at the entrance of one of the caves. His eyes were filled with hostility. With a roar, countless elemental beasts rushed out of the basin, roaring and attacking Lin Feng. They were all electric elemental beasts. There were hundreds of them. Their leader was a high-level beast king, Golden Wheel Lightning Bear King. On his forehead, there was a mark that resembled lightning, forming a golden wheel. 3/4 of them were already shining. Legend has it that when all of the golden wheels are lit up, this Golden Wheel Black Bear King will evolve into the legendary Savage level monster. With its whole body covered in crystal armor, the Golden Wheel Lightning Bear King was the true king of the beasts. It waved its bare paw, leaving behind afterimages, and countless cadmium electric currents crazily rushed over. It was like thunder and lightning. At this moment, Lin Feng truly had no way out. His body that was less than 2 meters tall was not even 1/10 of the Golden Wheel Black Bear King size. Arrogance and contempt could be seen in its eyes. Thunder and lightning caused a sensation. Every bolt of lightning was like an electric eel attacking. In an instant, Lin Feng's heart moved, and the blade in his hand seemed to come alive. The point that he hadn't understood for a long time suddenly lit up. That crucial intent was like the rising sun in his heart. The blade in his hand emitted waves, and as the spirit energy flickered, Lin Feng's figure strangely accelerated. 3 huge dragons appeared behind his body, and as the spirit energy crazily poured in, the dragons roared, and their aura was majestic. Suppression. Roar. The Golden Wheel Black Bear King's expression became somewhat frightened. Both of its palms were like thunder, and amidst the roar, the cadmium electric currents formed a circle and rumbled out, but it couldn't stop the seemingly small figure in front of it. A shocking blade, intent mixed with a fireball that was like a scorching sun, suddenly exploded. 9 Dragon Scripture, Level 3. Electric Eel. Boom! The dragon roared, and the shocking explosion shook the entire basin. A mournful roar filled with unwillingness and fear rang out. The huge figure that was more than 20 meters tall collapsed, and half of its body disappeared, as if it was burned by flames. Whoosh! Lin Feng's face was slightly pale. The recoil from the cadmium electric currents also made him feel uncomfortable, and his internal organs seemed to have shifted. However, it was worth it. This attack had consumed more than half of his spirit energy, and this was the result of him holding back. Before entering the wilderness, the eruption of the third level of the Nine-Dragon scripture, combined with the blazing power, was enough to break through the super alloy wall. Now, how difficult would it be to kill the high-level Beast King? Whoosh! Lin Feng glanced at the crystal watch. The position displayed showed that the Ice Lion adventure team had already reached the cliff path. Let's end this quickly. Lin Feng attacked again. On the cliff path, like Lin Feng, the Ice Lion adventure team also hesitated. If they weren't strong enough, it would be very dangerous to enter such a small path. Crazy, he's a lunatic. Flea's face was ashen. TSK, TSK, TSK. This kid is really daring. Haha, Photon touched his swept-back hair and laughed. Stone Lion and Ice Rose looked at each other. Suddenly, what's that sound? Stone Lion frowned. It's the roar of a bear-type elemental beast. Ice Rose's beautiful eyes flashed. Not good. Lin Feng is in danger. This should be a Beast King level existence. Oomph. Flea snorted. Let's go. Ice Rose was the first to jump onto the path. In an instant, Stone Lion, Photon, Yu Ming, and Xia Ling entered one after another. Flea's expression was ugly. He looked around and finally followed the team. Danger reveals one's true nature. However, to the surprise of the Ice Lion adventure team, it was not Lin Feng who was in danger, but a group of elemental beasts. There was a strong smell of blood. The ground was covered with corpses. There was almost no complete elemental beast corpse. There was a sea of blood in the basin, like a gloomy ghost town. In this ghost town, there was a familiar figure. He held the gray wolf sword with one hand and sat on the ground, looking over with a pale face. Lin Feng smiled weakly. The battle was over. The Ice Lion adventure team was stunned by the scene in front of them. From the moment they heard the roar to when they rushed over, it was less than 5 minutes. There were hundreds of elemental beasts, and Lin Feng was able to kill all of them by himself. Mid-level Beast King, Phantom Lightning Forest Musk, Elite Elemental Beast, Cloud Lightning Leopard Fox King. One by one, the powerful Beast King level existences were recognized. The most shocking thing was, oh my god, Golden Wool Black Bear King. Photon widened her eyes and was shocked. It really is the Golden Wool Black Bear King. The Stone Lion and Ice Rose were a little stunned. The Golden Wheel Black Bear King, with 3/4 of its golden wheels, was definitely a giant that they had to avoid. But now, it was completely dead. Who killed it? Everyone's eyes were focused on Lin Feng. They were filled with shock and astonishment. Impossible, right? But Lin Feng did not care about these elemental beasts at all. Look at what this is. Lin Feng picked up a crystal that was emitting a silver light from the ground and waved it with a smile. Chapter 98. It was unusually bright. In the dark night, the silver-white light was especially prominent. Elemental crystal, Ice Rose muttered. This is cadmium crystal, no. The Stone Lion looked around in shock and said with a trembling voice, it's cadmium crystal ore. Great, cadmium crystal ore. When the Ice Lion adventurers first entered, they were attracted by the fierce battle and didn't pay attention. But now it was clear. Crystals were everywhere. Pieces of cadmium ores of different shapes were exposed. Cadmium crystals were scattered everywhere, like gold coins on the ground. It was especially attractive. Looking over, although it wasn't densely packed, it covered at least half of the basin. How many cadmium crystals were there? A large-scale cadmium crystal ore. Lin Feng smiled. Everyone's eyes lit up and their breathing became hurried. A large-scale crystal ore meant that not only was there a large area, there were also cadmium crystals that exceeded grade 3. Compared to a medium-scale cadmium crystal ore, it was definitely 100 times more expensive. Even a most normal large-scale cadmium crystal ore, at least, was more than 100,000 gold coins. They were rich. I'm talking about the ones outside. Lin Feng pointed with his finger. Everyone was stunned. Lin Feng then pointed at the cave and said with a smile, I think there should be a cadmium heart in the cave. This place is most likely a crystal mine. Crystal ore. Everyone was stunned. Crystals were easy to get, but crystal or veins were hard to find. This sentence had been circulating in the adventurer's circle for a long time. How much was a crystal or vein worth? Even the smallest crystal or vein. Its value far exceeded a large-scale crystal or vein. A grade D crystal or vein was worth 100,000 gold coins. As for grade, it was worth 1,000,000 gold coins. In everyone's eyes, they were filled with excitement and excitement. Only one person's face was twitching with joy and annoyance. It was extremely complicated. Flee. He was in a dilemma. Dig. After sweeping the basin and confirming that there were no more elemental beasts, the Ice Lion adventurers started to dig. There were 3 paths in the basin. One was connected to the river. One was connected to the mountain range. The other was the path in the cliff. The river couldn't be blocked, but the path in the mountain range was connected to the cave. The stone lion quickly blocked it with huge rocks. As for the path in the cliff, it was basically safe. Pa, long, dong. Loud sounds came from the basin. Other than Lin Feng, there was no one else in the Ice Lion adventure team. The rest of them had all turned into miners. Even Xiao Ling was no exception. A pair of level 1 metal lightsabers had been used as hoes. It was a complete waste of resources. However, it did not matter. The value of the crystal vein was astonishingly huge. More than 1,000,000. Sister Bing, I've dug out the cadmium heart. Yu Ming's excited voice rang out. Haha, Lemon, you're so slow. I'm already on my 3rd one. Quang Wang's laughter echoed throughout the cave. Everyone, speed up. The stone lion's shout was filled with joy and urgency. 6 people were digging. Only Lin Feng was there. At this moment, he was in seclusion in the capsule alloy house. Soaking in the gene fluid, Lin Feng sat cross-legged in the middle of the gene fluid whirlpool. That was the limit of the 3rd level of the 9-Dragon scripture. In the battle last night, Lin Feng had suffered heavy injuries and was almost forced into a desperate situation. Not only had he exhausted his spiritual energy, even the energy of heaven and earth had been depleted. After entering the wilderness, Lin Feng's control over heaven and earth energy had improved a lot. However, it was still depleted, which showed how intense the battle was. Just the high-level Beast King alone had 2. There were also 3 elite elemental Beast King. This was also why Lin Feng clearly knew that this was a crystal mine. 1 or 2 elite elemental beasts might be a coincidence, but what about 5, 10, or 20? The large number of elite elemental beasts was enough to prove everything. 60% of the share should be at least 600,000 gold coins, right? Lin Feng smiled. He had taken the largest share of the team and earned this amount of money. It was enough for him to cultivate to the peak of the martial venerable level. He didn't need to worry about money anymore. With enough money, he could do many things, such as buying a high-level elemental heart for his sister, a villa, a chariot, and so on. Most importantly, I can investigate Big Brother's information. What happened 2 years ago? Why did Big Brother go missing? Now, is he alive or dead? Lin Feng's eyes shone. The absorption of the energy of heaven and earth was mixed with a ball of blazing energy. It was absorbed by the soul of the earth and turned into spiritual energy. Then, the spiritual energy spread throughout his body, healing his injuries. It formed a perfect cycle, deep in the Qinling Mountains. Swoosh! A light flashed like a sword. He had a handsome face and a perfect body. He was wearing A-class Geno armor and looked like a hero. He was the captain of the 7th team of the dragon-killing Holy Wind team, Erengia. Behind him were Shi Wulong and Ziyu. Behind them were the remaining 6 members of the 7th team. 20 members had entered the Qinling Mountains, but less than half of them were left. It was quite cruel, but this was the rule of Dragon Killing Island. Master Jia, could the news be fake? Ziyu asked hesitantly. He's just a 6-star adventurer. Do you think he has the guts to lie to me? Erengia smiled coldly. He's really stupid. Shi Wulong sneered. He betrayed his companions for some money. In the end, he accidentally found a large cadmium crystal mine. There's no turning back now. Many times, one wrong step, and the rest of your fate is already set. Erengia looked at Ziyu and Shi Wulong coldly. There was a hidden meaning in his words. Their expressions changed slightly, but they understood. Ziyu said, "We won't forget Master Jie's kindness. I won't be able to repay the captain's kindness even if I die." Sure, Wulong said. Irenjia smiled faintly and nodded. "Let's go and take over this cadmium crystal mine. How much power you have depends on how much money you earn. 1,000,000 gold coins. Huh, just an 8-star adventurer team. Can they swallow it all? If they swallow it by force, they'll explode and die. Bull mouth basin, capsule alloy house. My body is almost recovered." Lin Feng let out a sigh of relief. His injuries were not serious. The main thing was that he had used up a lot of energy. After some rest, especially with the nourishment of the spirit qi, he was back to normal. This was nothing. He had been seriously injured in the fight with a wild black bear king. He had to rest for a day and a night. In comparison, this was just a minor injury. "I'll rest for another 2 hours." Lin Feng used the 3rd level of the 9 Dragons Sutra again. The surging energy of heaven and earth gathered, and the hot energy flowed through his veins. It entered his dantian and was absorbed by the earth soul. Again, and again, time passed unknowingly. His body was also constantly changing during cultivation. Bang, bang, bang. What Lin Feng felt was a rush of excitement. After 3 days of continuous cultivation, the absorption and expansion of the earth soul had reached its limit, the limit of the 2nd stage. Finally, is it going to transform? Lin Feng was slightly happy. This was a surprise that he had expected. Chapter 99. It was very long. Lin Feng clearly remembered that when he broke through to the 2nd stage, he had not even crossed the critical line. Now, he was close to a mid-level ancient warrior. His strength was not what it used to be. Whoosh, whoosh. The soul of the earth spun rapidly. The spirit energy was absorbed continuously. It was infinitely close to 1%. A layer of faint white light enveloped the soul of the earth, sweeping everything around it like a tornado. Lin Feng felt as if all the muscles in his body were tense. Even his breathing was about to stop. Only that cluster of light was left in the entire space. Like the rising sun. Bang! His heart seemed to explode. Like a black hole collapsing, a bright star of hope appeared. That was the condensation and essence of energy. The white light film turned into a bright milky white. Under the mist, it was soft and warm, like the intimacy of the earth. Endless spirit energy, with the newly born soul of the earth as the source, spread in all directions. That was the spirit energy absorption that exceeded when a martial soul was activated. Astonishing energy circulated in his body. Whoosh! It flowed like water, like waves and tides. His cells were constantly reorganized and changed. His meridians and bones were strengthened. His skin was tough and powerful. Even the depths of his brain were permeated with strands of energy. The unknown space seemed to be filled bit by bit. His body seemed to have removed the dregs, leaving only the essence. Lin Feng was immersed in this wonderful feeling, satisfied and enjoying it. It was not only the soul of the earth that had transformed. It was also his own strength. In the basin at the mouth of the bowl, Lin Feng still hasn't come out. A man like him has the nerve to be lazy? Guang Guang crossed her legs and leaned against the wall of the cave. I wonder how Lin Feng's injuries are. Yumeng was a little worried. He should be seriously injured. The stone lion's voice was low. Last time, in the battle with the wild black bear king. With such serious injuries, he only rested for a day and a night. This time, there are so many elemental beasts, and even monsters like the golden wheel lightning bear king. Although I don't know how Lin Feng killed that monster, but I'm afraid the price is not cheap. He still has a trump card, Ice Rose said. Haha, in my opinion, this kid must be too lazy to work. Guang 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 said. Anyway, he can't see it. I'll hide a few more cadmium hearts. How do you know I can't see it? A faint laugh rang out. Everyone in the cave was startled. Photon's eyes widened as he jumped up and dashed out in a split second. Wasn't that tall and straight figure smiling like the sun Lin Feng? Haha, you brat, you're finally willing to come out. Quanko laughed heartily as if a heavy burden had been lifted from his shoulders. Looks like you were fine. The stone lion laughed heartily and nodded. Xiaoling's expression said, I knew it. However, the worry in her beautiful eyes disappeared. Yumeng also revealed a charming smile. Ice Rose stared at Lin Feng and said, Lin Feng, you seem to have changed. Changes? Everyone was puzzled. Lin Feng smiled. I'll increase my strength a little. Another upgrade? The expressions of the Ice Lion's adventurers were interesting. They were both envious and speechless. Watching Lin Feng's strength grow was like flying. What kind of monster was he? Level 1 geniuses who had awakened the Earth Soul were indeed extraordinary. Let's go mining. We don't have much time. Lin Feng smiled as he walked towards one of the caves. It was about time for him to return in a few days. There was still a week before the date he had agreed to meet Brother Lei on May 1st. After returning to Luori City, he would have enough money to treat Ollie. As for the increase in strength, this time, the release of Spirit Chi has far exceeded the second stage. Not only has my body increased by a level, but my mind expanse has also increased by a lot. It's about time. It should be at 25%. Lin Feng smiled in satisfaction. The Earth Soul's transformation had long been completed. Third stage. The reason why it took so long. It was because it needed enough time to completely absorb the Spirit Chi. By the way, Lin Feng, how did you find this place? Yumeng asked curiously. It's because of the musk emitted by the male forest musk deer. Lin Feng explained. Male forest musk deer will unconsciously emit their musk when they are excited. Coincidentally, this is the time when female forest musk deer give birth. Hence, I guess that they might be here to find suitable cadmium crystals or cadmium crystal cores. I see. Yumeng understood and couldn't help but smile. You're smart. Lin Feng smiled and said, Captain taught me. I didn't teach you that. The stone lion laughed heartily. However, it's all thanks to you, Lin Feng. I estimate that this batch of cadmium crystal veins is worth about 5 million gold coins. Each of US can get 100,000 gold coins. It's too generous. I'll retire after this. Kuang Guang laughed. I'll marry 7 beauties in Sunset City and sleep with them every day for a week. Tisk. Shameless. It instantly attracted the disdain of the girls. Kuang Guang didn't mind and chuckled. Lin Feng also smiled. Kuang Guang was a person with a temperament. He said what he thought. To him, this was his life goal. When he was young, he shed his blood, worked hard, and took risks. It was actually very normal to retire and enjoy life after earning enough money. Lin Feng, what about you? What do you want to do next? Ice Rose's voice suddenly sounded, instantly arousing everyone's curiosity. Each of them would only get 100,000 gold coins, but Lin Feng would get 60% of it, nearly 1 million gold coins. In Sunset City, this was enough to be in the top 10 of the rich list. Continue with your cultivation, Lin Feng said with a smile. He really didn't think that much. Compared to the money, Lin Feng cared more about increasing his strength. Soon, he would join the Elemental Business Alliance and enter the floating elemental island. It was a plain and unremarkable answer. But at this moment, in the hearts of the Ice Lion adventurers, everyone had a different feeling. If they were in his shoes and received such a large sum of money, what would they do? Would they be as calm and persistent as Lin Feng? What a strong heart. The stone lion's laughter was deep and resounding. I think I can already see that one day, Lin Feng, your name will be known throughout ancient China. On the cliff path, shwa, 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 9 figures wearing Geno armor landed in front of the cliff. It was the 7th team of the dragon-killing Godwind. This should be the place. Irenja put his hands behind his back and smiled. After this path, we will reach the cadmium crystal mine. Sure Wulong looked at his crystal watch. There were 6 dots on it. Location and vision sharing. The cadmium crystal mine is worth 5 million gold coins. Ziyu's eyes sparkled. She smiled. I don't think the Ice Lion adventurers would know that the mantis stalks the cicada, unaware of the oriole behind. They even helped us dig for 2 days for free. Then let's leave them with a whole body. Irenja laughed. He wasn't being arrogant. He was 100% strong and confident. Irinja didn't even care about a 9-star adventurer team, let alone an 8-star adventurer team. They were the true elites of Dragon Killing Island. Let's go. Let's send them off. Chapter 100. Bull Mouth Basin. Flying Fish Spin. Lin Feng's gray wolf battle blade spun rapidly like a flying fish drilling into the ground. Chi. A large piece of cadmium crystal or was crushed into powder, revealing small pieces of cadmium crystals. Although the cadmium crystal ore itself had a certain value, it was troublesome and time-consuming to mine. Secondly, the crystal surface space was not that big. What should be given up had to be given up. The dignified 7-spinning slash was used to mine, or if the creator of this move knew about it, how would he react? With a sweep of his right arm, the Grey Wolf battle blade was thick and powerful. Lin Feng smiled slightly. He had already activated his strength. Now that he was an intermediate ancient martial general, his strength had reached the level of an advanced ancient martial venerable. Including his speed, he was close to an advanced ancient martial venerable. If he fully unleashed his spirit energy, his strength would not be inferior to an advanced ancient martial venerable. The third stage of Earth's Soul. Lin Feng sensed the small ball in his dantian that had transformed. It was now completely new. A milky white light film, surrounded by a circle of spirit energy, was perfectly integrated into his dantian, completely becoming a part of his body. Spinning, absorbing spirit energy, releasing spirit energy, it formed a perfect cycle. His heart was as calm as dust. Faintly, Lin Feng felt that something was wrong. Pa! Abruptly opening his eyes, Lin Feng dashed out of the cave at lightning speed. His gaze quickly locked onto the direction of the small path on the cliff, his eyes shining brightly. Enemy attack. Lin Feng's voice was thick and powerful. Not only did the ice lions in the Bull Mouth Basin hear it clearly, but even Irinja and the others on the cliff path heard it. Not good. Irinja was shocked. The genetic battle boots flashed with a cold light. The radium power suddenly exploded, like a flying sword cutting through the sky. Dragon Killing Divine Wind Team, the captain of the 7th team. Behind him, Shi Wulong and Ziyu hurriedly followed behind with ugly expressions. They had been discovered. Where is it? Where is the enemy attack? Hua Guang, Shi, Ice Rose, and the others appeared almost at the same time, looking nervous. Everyone was filled with cadmium crystals and cadmium cores, worth more than 100,000. Nearly half of the entire cadmium crystal vein had been excavated. The number of people is unknown. However, the strongest one is a high-level martial revered. Lin Feng made a clear judgment. This was the reason why he had shouted earlier. It was to test this unknown enemy. Whoosh! Everyone's expression changed drastically. Let's go. As Lin Feng shouted, his body moved like a blade. The energy of heaven and earth converged on the gray wolf battle saber in his hand. Pa! Ice Rose was very decisive. She pressed the crystal watch. Countless rays of light burst out and gathered like lasers. In an instant, the Cobalt Series Heaven Dazzling War Chariot was formed. Whoosh! 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 The members of the Ice Lion Adventurer team hurriedly entered. There was no time to hesitate. Break what should be broken. Violent Shark Devour. Lin Feng stomped on the ground with his left foot as he dashed forward, his battle blade rumbling. Rumble, rumble. The 4th level of the boundless sea of Qi erupted like a tsunami. In the huge waves that were more than 20 meters high, a giant shark opened its ferocious mouth and madly bit the cliffs and rocks in front of it. Lin Feng's eyes were bright. With his excellent dynamic vision, he could vaguely see a blurry figure in the distance. The speed was extremely fast, but rumble. The cliffs completely shattered and collapsed, forming a huge ravine. It was as if the mountains were collapsing. Damn it! Irinja jumped up. His face was filled with anger. He waved his arm, and 3 rays of sword light shot out. The radium force condensed into 3 rays of laser light that were more than 10 meters long. They were like lightning. Radium triple-layered sword. Chi! 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 The 3 rays of laser light came extremely fast and pierced through the sky. However, due to the distance, their power was greatly reduced. Violent shark devour. Lin Feng's eyes sharpened. The gray wolf battle blade instantly came into contact with the intense laser light. His arm suddenly felt a huge shock. His hand went numb. The intense laser light pierced through his chest. Bang! The remaining radium force landed on the antimony alloy battle armor. Lin Feng's face paled, and he was sent flying by the huge force. Such terrifying power! Lin Feng's heart trembled. As he retreated, his eyes stared at the face in front of him. He spat out a mouthful of blood. Lin Feng, quick! Yu Jie's anxious voice came from behind. He heard the sound of the shining sky chariot starting up. Lin Feng stepped on the ground and lowered his body to enter the chariot. In an instant, a ray of red light shot out. The cobalt shining sky chariot rushed out like lightning. His face was ashen. These lowly adventurers. Erenjia's eyes were spitting fire. The sudden collapse of the mountain caused him to be covered in dirt. To Erenjia, who was obsessed with cleanliness, this was simply unbearable. Most importantly, the captain of the 7th team of the dragon-killing Divine Wind team had actually let a few ants escape from under his nose. How could he tolerate this? How could he tolerate this? Not for other reasons, but just for this, he couldn't swallow it. If this spread out, how could he still have face? The 6 of you, stay here, mine. Erenjia's murderous eyes glanced over. The 6 team members responded in a trembling voice. Wulong Ziyu, let's go. Erenjia roared. The light on the surface of the crystal converged, forming a sharp shuttle-shaped chariot. It was completely white like a crystal body. The radium barbarian chariot was priceless. Inside the cobalt shining sky chariot. How is it, Lin Feng? Are you okay? Everyone in the Ice Lion team looked nervous. I'm fine. Lin Feng wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth with the back of his hand and smiled faintly. I escaped by a hair's breadth. His eyes flashed, and an angry face appeared in an instant. The tyrannical strength made Lin Feng wary. The short exchange just now was enough to show the opponent's tyrannical strength. Even if he used the 9-dragon scripture, he might not have a chance of winning. A real high-level Geno battle venerable. There are still so many cadmium crystals. Liang Guang shouted reluctantly. Staying alive is the most important thing, Stone Lion said seriously. The opponent's strength is far beyond ours. We should be satisfied with getting half of the cadmium crystal vein. Yu Meng smiled in relief. Ice Rose didn't say a word as she controlled the cobalt shining sky chariot. But suddenly, her pupils dilated. Sit tight. Ice Rose's cold voice sounded. Everyone in the chariot was stunned. Boom! Boom! The chariot shook violently. Second acceleration. Stone Lion exclaimed. Lin Feng's heart sank. The cobalt shining sky chariot was built with the cobalt heart as the core and combined with the strongest explosive power of the cobalt element. It was similar to Yu Meng's elemental martial art, blood cobalt. At this time, the chariot entered the second acceleration mode. The top grade shock absorbers were no longer effective. The chariot's speed skyrocketed as it flew. Sister Bing, what happened? Lin Feng had a bad feeling. Inside the chariot, the atmosphere was silent. 1 second, 2 seconds. They caught up. Ice Rose's voice was cold, but there was deep fear in it. Them? Suddenly, Lin Feng understood. Impossible. Lin Feng's eyes burned. The scene from when he blocked the enemy's attack to when the cobalt shining sky chariot exploded was just a few seconds. It was enough to shake off the enemy. Plus, Sister Bing's driving skills were excellent. It was hard to figure out where she was going with the S-shaped chariot. There was no reason to be targeted, unless... Lin Feng's eyes were bright as he glanced at everyone in the chariot. Suddenly, his hands were like lightning, and the energy of heaven and earth exploded. As everyone exclaimed, Lin Feng grabbed Flea's neck. You are a spy. Lin Feng clenched his teeth. Chapter 101. Mole. This word instantly caused everyone in the Ice Lion Adventure team to change their expressions. That's impossible, right? This. Many pairs of eyes looked at Lin Feng and Flea in shock. Let me go. Flea's face was ferocious. At this moment, he was like a flea being pinched in a hand. He hissed anxiously. Everyone, don't believe him. He's slandering us. He's the real mole. Captain, check his crystal watch. Lin Feng ignored Flea and said in a low voice, see if he has activated the location sharing function. No. Flea struggled, his face pale. However, he was only a high-level warrior. The difference between him and Lin Feng was like heaven and earth. Resistance was futile. The stone lion's face was ashen. He grabbed Flea's star watch. In an instant, his eyes were about to pop out of their sockets. His majestic body trembled violently as he gritted his teeth. So it's you. The stone lion's gaze looked like it wanted to devour someone. No, it's not me. This is a misunderstanding. Flea was like a goose being strangled by the neck. He screamed desperately. However, scum. The stone lion's eyes were bloodshot. Speak. Was it you who tipped off the Hornless Dragon Adventure Team's ambush that day? Listen to me, Captain. This. Flea was so anxious that his face turned red. Explain it to your dead teammates. The stone lion was like a ferocious beast at this moment. His iron fists were condensed with strong zinc power. His fists were dazzling. A simple and violent punch directly smashed Flea's head into pieces, causing Xiao Ling to cry out involuntarily. There was complete silence. The stone lion clenched his fists tightly. His face was full of annoyance. I should have noticed it earlier. Bah, this scum deserves to be hacked into pieces. Huanzi was unable to restrain his anger. Lin Feng's expression was solemn. Previously, he thought that Flea simply didn't like him. He never suspected that he had such ulterior motives. One could know a person's face, but not his heart. At this moment, rumble. The war chariot shook violently. Everyone was thrown off their feet. Wah! Huanzi shouted. Before he could react, the war chariot roared again. A terrifying heat attacked. With a cracking sound, the right side of the chariot almost disappeared. Everyone took a deep breath. In an instant, the war chariot rotated 180 degrees and descended like a top. Sit tight. Ice Rose's anxious voice could be heard. Boom, boom, boom. The entire dazzling sky war chariot shook violently. Lin Feng was shocked. Triple acceleration. This was the most powerful ability of the Cobalt-type Shining Sky War Chariot. Just like overclocking one's energy, a Heavenly Glory Realm Warrior would be able to display the speed of a Savage Realm Warrior, but it wouldn't last for long. Sister Bing's Heaven Dazzling War Chariot was worth 100,000 gold coins. How could she be forced to such a state? Lin Feng looked at the right side of the chariot. He could see the blurry scenery outside. It was not an electromagnetic cannon, but a powerful laser beam. Swish! The Cobalt-type Sky Dazzling War Chariot exploded with speed. Radium Series Savage Chariot. The sharpshooter, Ziyu, was controlling the war chariot. His skills were excellent, so it was a piece of cake for him. Inside the war chariot, Erengia and Shi Wulong sat peacefully as they watched the real-time images on the light screen. How could a mere Heaven Glory War Chariot escape the pursuit of a savage war chariot? It was simply a dream. Stop it for me, Erengia shouted impatiently. It's a bit difficult. Young Master Jia, Ziyu said, this is a Cobalt Series Heaven Dazzling War Chariot. Its speed is comparable to ours after triple acceleration. What? Erengia frowned. Captain, don't worry, Shi Wulong said with a smile. Triple acceleration can only last for 60 seconds. After 60 seconds, the war chariot will be paralyzed. By then, the Ice Lion Adventurer team will be at our mercy. Unfortunately, the traitor seems to have been discovered. It's good that he was discovered. It saves me from dirtying my hands. Erengia's eyes lit up as he pondered. 60 seconds. All right. We'll let them live for another 60 seconds. Cobalt Series Heaven Dazzling War Chariot. The air was completely frozen. Shi Wulong was right. The Cobalt Series Heaven Dazzling War Chariot could only maintain triple acceleration for 60 seconds. By then, the war chariot would be scrapped. It could be said that this was the last method to escape. But if they couldn't even get rid of the enemy with triple acceleration, then the only thing left was to wait for death. There's still 55 seconds left. Ice Rose's cold voice sounded. The enemy is a Radium Series Savage War Chariot. We can't get rid of them. Everyone's face turned pale. Ice Rose's words were equivalent to a death sentence. F*CK. Let's fight it out with them. Ziyu was already in a state of madness. We have no chance of winning, Sure said calmly. They are here for the money. If we give them all the cadmium crystals, will we survive? Yu Meng frowned. Money could be earned again, but they only had one life. Everyone looked at each other and nodded. Although it was a bit embarrassing, it was still a good idea to protect themselves. Lin Feng frowned slightly. Although it wasn't what he wanted, it was related to the lives of the 6 members of the Ice Lion Adventurer team. There's another method. Split up and escape. Ice Rose's voice sounded. But first, we don't know the safety. Second, we don't know the enemy's strength. The risk is also high. No matter what, compared to fighting them head-on, our survival rate will be much higher. 30% chance of survival. Lin Feng nodded. Relatively speaking, this method was the most feasible, but it was also very dangerous. Even if they escaped, they might not be able to leave the wilderness alive. Drip, drip, time passed second by second. Everyone was in deep thought. Every method had its pros and cons. I have a suggestion, Sure said. Let's test them later. If they only want money, we can give them half or even half of the cadmium crystals. Once the negotiation fails, we will split up and escape. Ice Rose, you take Xiaoling Ziyu, you and Yu Meng. Lin Feng, you and I will go alone. Do you have any objections? No. Then it's decided. Sure said in a low voice. The cobalt-type sky light war chariot landed. As if it had used up all its energy, the originally bright red light became extremely dim. It shook and stopped. The members of the Ice Lion Adventurer team appeared. Behind them was a wide expanse of grass and trees. It was easy to hide and escape. A white, crystalline, and enchanting war chariot also instantly stopped in midair. It was filled with an extremely oppressive feeling. The door opened. 2 figures, one in front and one behind, leaped down from the sky and looked down at the crowd. Ta! One of them was wearing an A-class Geno armor. He had an imposing aura. His hands were behind his back, and he was smiling faintly. The other was half a step behind. He was wearing a B-class Geno armor. The dragon pattern on his arm was obvious. Both of their Geno armors had the symbol of Dragon Killing Island. It was Erengia and Sure Wulong. What a familiar face. Lin Feng looked at Sure Wulong. Where had he seen him before? Inexplicably, Lin Feng felt the ground under his feet shake. Was it an illusion? Lin Feng could not help but look into the distance. There was a cliff in front of him. Looking from the cliff, he seemed to see something familiar. That was Chapter 102. You're not running anymore? Erengia had a playful smile on his face. Dragon-killing Divine Wind team? Sure's expression changed slightly. He had a bad feeling. Dragon Killing Island was famous for its cruelty and ruthlessness. However, he still forced himself to say, Friend, we are willing to give you all the cadmium crystal ores. Since we are asking for money, can you give us a way out? Ha. Erengia laughed loudly. It felt as if he was a high and mighty king who controlled everyone's life and death. How'd I know you won't hide some? Erengia laughed, his eyes filled with contempt. What's more, with just you ants, what qualifications do you have to negotiate with this young master? As he spoke, his hands were already flashing with radium energy like a dancing snake. 4th level control. Plus, Erengia narrowed his eyes and pointed at Lin Feng. He must die. Lin Feng's eyes darkened. At this moment, he looked at the young man with dragon tattoos. That hateful gaze was very familiar. A familiar face suddenly appeared in his mind. Lin Feng, are you confused? Sure Wulong smiled. You don't know me, right? But you definitely know my brother. Sure Wulong. Bang. Lin Feng's energy exploded. At this moment, he no longer had any doubts. It was no longer the surging waves behind him. Instead, it was the roar of 3 huge dragons. Lin Feng's quick burst of energy shocked Erengia and Sure Wulong. The Ice Lion Adventurer group was also stunned. What terrifying energy! What? Ice Rose finally understood. Why was Lin Feng able to kill the Golden Wheel Lightning Bear King? What was his trump card? What a terrifying heart technique. Let's go. Lin Feng shouted. Every injustice has its perpetrator. There was no need to drag others down with him. Hidden Dragon Sturgeon. Lin Feng was extremely fast. Before he arrived, his saber arrived first. Lin Feng didn't hide his strength at all as soon as he made his move. This was because it was a true moment of life and death. The dragon-tattooed youth wasn't frightening. What was frightening was this youth whose radium force had reached the 4th level. Oh, Irenja became serious. There were no weapons. Because he didn't need to control the radium power at all. He could change the genetic energy as he wished. B4 Radium Heart. Radium Crossblade. 2 rays of laser light flashed in the shape of a cross. Irenja sneered. On the other side, Shi Wulong sneered. The laser sword in his hand glowed with a rich light. His entire body glowed red, as if he was burning. Blood Transformation Cobalt, 3rd level. To Shi Wulong, Lin Feng had already been handed over to Captain Irenja. His mission was to clean up the remaining waste and seize the cadmium crystal mine. This was no different from fighting against elemental beasts. None of them could be left alive. TSK. His entire body was surrounded by a blood-red color. It was like a flame. With Shi Wulong's strength, the explosive speed of the 3rd stage blood transformation cobalt had even surpassed Captain Irenja. It could be said to be the fastest under the savage level. It would be easy to clean up the Ice Lion Adventurer team, but this was under the situation where the blood transformation cobalt had completely erupted. Just like the Blade Realm, one must have a blade in hand. Spirit Chi, Lin Feng, who was galloping, suddenly appeared with a strong force. His body was like a small fish swimming, and he strangely made a 90-degree turn in an instant. In an instant, Irenja's expression changed. As soon as he used the Radium Crossblade, he immediately roared. Martial Dragon. It was too late. His voice couldn't be faster than Lin Feng's speed. In fact, Shi Wulong also felt Lin Feng's sneak attack in an instant. He cursed in his heart. The 3rd stage of the blood transformation cobalt had just erupted. The laser sword blasted out. Level 4 Neo Martial Art. Mad Dragon Sword, 100%. Being able to enter the dragon-killing Heavenly Wind team and be valued by Irenja, Shi Wulong was not mediocre. In the dragon-killing Heavenly Wind team's 7th Battalion, Shi Wulong's close combat ability was ranked 2nd. However, Lin Feng in front of him was stronger than him. Intermediate Ancient Warrior. The 3rd stage of the Earth's Soul. Flying Fish Turn. Lin Feng's blade energy condensed like a flying fish. A quarter of his spirit chi was poured in. The 3rd stage of the 9 Dragon Scripture was activated. Lin Feng's strength didn't lie in his high-level revered ancient martial artist physique, but in his attack power that far exceeded that of a high-level revered ancient martial artist. Before entering the wilderness, the 3rd stage of the 9 Dragon Scripture, combined with the energy of heaven and earth, could already break through the super alloy. Now that his physique was stronger, his blade technique had greatly improved, and he had condensed a quarter of his spirit chi. Lin Feng's blade could not break through the super alloy. It could even completely destroy it without any problem. It was enough to match Brother Lei's valiant attack power. Boom! The blazing energy was like the scorching sun, with irresistible force. Shi Wulong's Mad Dragon Sword was simply unable to block Lin Feng's attack. The sword ray was instantly annihilated by the fanatical energy. They were not on the same level at all. Shi Wulong's eyes widened. Feeling the descent of this terrifying power, he was completely suffocated. The blood transformation cobalt's true power lies in its speed, but what use was it now? No! Shi Wulong's eyes were about to pop out of their sockets. He screamed hysterically and used his strongest defense to resist. His Geno armor glowed brightly. However, it was all too late. It was a clean slash. It was the same flying fish spin under the 3rd stage of the 9 Dragon Scripture. The spinning power was maximized, but it was less agile and more overbearing. Especially the blazing energy. It was like a raging fire, invincible. Shi Wulong was dead. Everyone was shocked. Sure Wulong's death was like a time bomb exploding. It was too sudden, courting death. A thunderous roar resounded. Irengia was truly enraged this time. The competition in the dragon-killing Divine Wind team was very intense. Sure Wulong's death was definitely a blow to him. Not to mention that Sure Wulong was killed in front of him. It was equivalent to giving him a slap in the face. Bang! Bang! Suddenly, two beams of radiant light lit up like two suns exploding in the sky. Ace. This was a real Geno warrior. The cultivation of neo-martial arts. The B-class elemental heart was overbearing. This was enough to rank in the top 3 Geno warriors on Dragon Killing Island. Swish! An arrow carrying an icy aura shot towards them. The Ice Lion adventurers had yet to leave. Ice Rose's ice bow shot out again to help Lin Feng. This time, her opponent was not the elemental beasts. It was the super elites of Dragon Killing Island. Chi. Irengia did not even turn his head. He reached out his index finger, and a beam of radiant light gathered at his fingertip. It shot out instantly. Whoosh! The light gathered and extended in the sky, leaving behind many afterimages. It collided with the rose arrow and pierced through it with a loud explosion, heading straight for the ice rose. Watch out! Stone Lion's face changed, and he quickly moved to the side. The zinc power gathered into a strong armor and formed a shield. The strongest defense system was set up instantly. However, the radiant beam was strong enough to pierce through all the defenses. Pang! Pang! The 2 hits made the blood beam come out of Stone Lion's back. Even Ice Rose was hurt. One hit had defeated the 2 strongest members of the Ice Lion team. No! Lin Feng's eyes almost popped out of their sockets. His heart clenched and he was furious. Captain and the others were hurt for him. Dying. Irengia did not even look at the Ice Lion team. Right now, only Lin Feng. Boom! Boom! Double radiant ball. Irengia was very strong. The 2 radiant balls flew like snakes. They did not fly in a straight line. Instead, they flew in an arc-perfect control. Compared to the radiant beam that had injured Ice Rose and Stone Lion, the radiant balls were the real, terrifying power. Irengia suddenly felt that something was wrong. The radiant balls were very fast, but Lin Feng's speed was not slow either. Although Ice Rose's attack was only for a moment, it gave Lin Feng precious time to catch his breath. Facing the 2 radiant balls, Lin Feng seemed to have returned to the time when he had comprehended the body intent. Extreme danger brought extreme challenge. Lin Feng dodged by a hair's breadth. His body flashed strangely like a small fish in a storm. Hua shua! He dodged by just a hair's breadth. Even though his body was burned by the radiant light, Lin Feng's body intent had clearly improved by another level. Body intent proficient. Rumble. At this moment, the ground started shaking violently. Not only was the Ice Lion adventure team stunned, Irengia was also surprised. Suddenly, as if he felt something, he turned his head to look into the distance. His eyes were instantly filled with shock. Dots of light. His eardrums swelled rapidly. The earth shook violently. The sound waves from the bats were strong, boundless. Although it was just a glance, how could he be distracted in battle? Not good. Irengia was shocked. When he came back to his senses, the distance between him and Lin Feng had closed. You're looking for death. Irengia's eyes lit up. He twisted the radiant power in his hands. The 2 radiant balls that had been chasing Lin Feng collided at a shocking speed. The radiant power crazily intertwined. It was like a bomb had been ignited. B-grade radiant element. It was a true light core element. Not only did it have the power of light, but it also had the power of a core. Iron Shirt. Lin Feng reacted quickly. Boom! Rumble. A shocking explosion. Everyone in the Ice Lion team widened their eyes in shock. Their bodies trembled. This was a battle that was far beyond their level. The power of a nuclear explosion was terrifying. The radiant power crazily flowed. Lin Feng, who was at the center of the explosion, in an instant. Xiao! A figure covered in blood rushed out like lightning. The antimony alloy elemental armor on his body was almost blown to pieces. Then, the giant dragon behind Lin Feng ignited its strongest blade. Nine Dragon Sutra, Level 3. Electric Eel. The blade waves were heavy, and the electric current flowed rapidly. The spirit energy condensed. The blade moved like an electric eel, but it also carried an indestructible blazing sun. Elemental Martial Art, Radiant Fission. Irenjia's face was ferocious. The veins on his handsome face protruded. The radiant power was already crazily circulating. His body was as terrifying as scales. As strong as he was truly forced into a desperate situation by Lin Feng this time. The giant dragon's flames were boundless. The radiant light fission shattered everything. It was a battle of the strongest attack below the savage level. Boom! The entire cliff exploded. The original earthquake turned into fragments of the cliff. It started to collapse from the top. In the distance, an endless swarm of bats attacked at an alarming speed. On the other side, the battle between Lin Feng and Irenjia had also ended. Both sides were injured. Bang! Irenjia fell heavily to the ground. His body was covered in blood. It was unknown whether he was dead or alive. On the other side, bang! Lin Feng was also on the verge of losing consciousness. Like a kite with a broken string, he fell from the highest cliff. Below, it wasn't just a collapsed cliff. It was a bottomless abyss. Chapter 103. His consciousness was a little hazy. He was falling straight down the cliff. He could only hear the sound of the wind. Was he going to die? No! Lin Feng gritted his teeth. He could not die like this. He still needed to take care of his mother and sister. His elder brother who might be in danger. He still had too many things to do. I have to live. Lin Feng had a strong will. He forced his remaining spiritual energy to circulate through his numb body. The power of radium was running wildly in his body. The more his body could recover, the more likely he would be to survive. Even if it was only a 1 in 1,000 chance. He would not die from falling from such a high place unless there was a lake or river below. But was he that lucky? No. Very quickly, Lin Feng could vaguely see the jagged rocks below, and the cracked mountain rocks on the cliff continued to fall. However, Brother Lin, a pleasant voice sounded. Lin Feng was a little stunned. Was it an illusion? He could vaguely smell a familiar fragrance. Suddenly, Lin Feng felt his body lighten. It was as if he was wrapped in something. It was a layer of cloud. No, it was white fog. It was like clouds and fog. The speed of his fall slowed down a lot. However, the strong inertia could not stop him from falling. There seemed to be a soft moan coming from the white fog. It was a little unbearable. Lin Feng knew that this was Xia Ling's niobium power, the heart of the special element. Thank you, Ling-er, Lin Feng murmured in his heart. In a split-second bang, Lin Feng used the last of his strength. He punched downwards and landed heavily on the ground. Dong! Rumble! The crumbling mountain rocks continued to fall. Lin Feng and Xiaoling. They were buried immediately on the cliff. The destruction caused by the battle between Lin Feng and Irenjia, coupled with the violent ultrasonic vibrations of the bats, caused the cliff to completely collapse. Young Master Jia. Ziyu would never have dreamed that the leader of the 7th Battalion of the Dragon-Killing Divine Wind Team, the super elite of Dragon-Killing Island, and the young master of the Yi family would be defeated here by an unknown young ancient warrior. Yirenji. They were the top 3 Geno battle masters on Dragon-Killing Island. Boom! In an instant, the Radium Savage Chariot started moving. An afterimage streaked across the air. She could control the sharp, spindle-shaped war chariot with ease. Ziyu quickly saved Irenjia and did not even look at the Ice Lion adventurers. Compared to young Master Jia's life, what was a mere cadmium crystal mine? Even if there were 10 or 100 cadmium crystal veins, none of them were as important as young Master Jia. Whoosh! The Radium Barbarian War chariot tore through the air and disappeared. It was too late to stop him. There was no way to stop it. Even if the Ice Lions were in perfect condition, they would still be no match for Ziyu. One was just a normal team of adventurers, while the other was an elite from the Dragon-Killing Island, one of the 5 giants of ancient Huaxia. What's more, Saving people was far more important than revenge. Let's go. Ice Rose endured the pain and pressed the crystal watch. Instantly, a bronze beryllium tank appeared. Although it was not as valuable as the Shining Sky War Chariot, it was worth at least tens of thousands of gold coins. It was more than enough to avoid the impending disaster. In the distance, there were at least tens of thousands of bats covering the sky. This was definitely a beast-tide outbreak, not to mention them. Even a savage-level expert had to avoid it. Photon carried the heavily injured stone lion, and Yu Meng quickly entered. Whoosh! The Earth Chariot sped away. Inside the Earth Chariot, Lemon, how's the captain's injury? Photon asked anxiously. It's hard to say. He has to go back to Sun City for treatment immediately. Yu Meng frowned. What about Lin Feng and Xiaoling? Photon widened her eyes and shook her head. No, Lemon, you and Sister Bing go back to Sun City first. I have to find them. Photon stood up abruptly as she spoke. She set up the electromagnetic cannon with a solemn expression. There's a beast-tide outbreak. You will die if you go back. Ice Rose's voice was weak. What's more, with your strength, even with Lemon's help, you can't survive in the savage level, let alone save people. Photon's face was ashen. She clenched her fists and trembled. Her words were crude, but reasonable. All right, don't be rash, Ice Rose said in a low voice. I've already memorized the coordinates. I'll inform my father to arrange for an adventurer team to come and help, but the danger of the beast horde is extraordinary. Even savage-level experts have to avoid it. Whether Lin Feng and Xiaoling can survive depends on luck. 02 World of Ruins. Bad tide. It can't be. It's true. It's a message from the army. Due to the appearance of rare earth, countless adventurer teams gathered in the World of Ruins. Some came from Sun City, and some came from nearby cities. 4 warrior general and martial venerable level experts. This was a rare opportunity to make a fortune. The savage level was very far away from most warrior level experts. At this moment, the news of the Bat Tide made all the adventurers dumbfounded. It wasn't fake news. It was a message from the army. Most of the warrior level experts retreated, but there was still a small group of adventure teams that stayed. The departure of most teams meant that they had a higher chance of obtaining the precious rare earth element. Humans die for wealth. Birds die for food. Haha, another piece of rare earth erbium. How many pieces do we have today? A burly man said happily. It's already more than 100 pieces. Brother Liu, we're rich this time. It's at least a few hundred gold coins. As expected, the bold die from overeating and the cowardly die from starvation. Ha! Bat Tide. Heh, how can it be so easy to encounter one? The burly man didn't think much of it and carefully put away the rare earth erbium. Besides, since the army sent the message, they must have rushed over. Who knows? They might have already defeated the Bat Tide. Don't you think so, Along? What's that sound, Along? The burly man raised his head and followed Along's gaze. His eyes widened in shock. It was overwhelming. In the distance, a dense swarm of giant bats attacked like an army. It was like a black cloth falling from the distant sky. Bit by bit, they covered the entire sky. Leading them were dozens of elite magnetite horseshoe bats. Their wings, which were more than 20 meters long, didn't have any crystals and were as sharp as the sides of the night. High-level Beast King. Boom, boom, boom. The earth shook. The entire world of Ruins 02 instantly became hell on earth. Qingling Mountains. Rubble was everywhere and piled up into a mountain. Pa! Pa! The huge boulder shook slightly. In a split second, it shattered with a bang. Even the rocks around it were shattered into pieces. The empty and silent valley shook violently, causing several elemental beasts to roar continuously. In that pile of rubble, a figure could be seen. The elemental armor on his body had long been shattered beyond recognition. His body was covered in scars and bloodstains, looking extremely terrifying. His face was slightly pale. We're finally out. Lin Feng walked out of the rubble mountain. His hands were tightly hugging the curled-up body of Xiaoling, who was sleeping soundly. Chapter 104. Lin Feng scanned his surroundings. It was a barren mountain with no signs of human habitation. Not even half an elemental beast could be seen. Where was this? Below the cliff. Lin Feng glanced to the crystal watch. It had long been damaged and only had the most basic storage function left. Even the B3 antimony alloy elemental armor had turned into scrap metal. It was enough to show how terrifying the power of radium was. He had been seriously injured in the battle with the wild Black Bear King and had spent a day and a night to recover. But this time, he had only recovered a small part of his strength. An elite from Dragon Killing Island. Lin Feng recognized the logo on his opponent's Geno armor. So strong, there was still a certain gap in strength. If it wasn't for the outbreak of the bat horde distracting him, he might not even have the chance to hurt him. My basic strength is not strong enough. Lin Feng understood that he was far from his opponent with just the energy of heaven and earth. And the amount of spirit chi was too little. Even if Soul of the Earth was now at the third stage, he had just stepped in. When the third stage of the Nine-Dragon Scripture was fully unleashed, one attack could drain all the spirit chi. After patrolling around the Broken Stone Mountain, Lin Feng didn't find anything and sat down. Before his injuries were healed, it was very stupid to wander around in the barren land. Middle-level Ancient Warrior. Lin Feng's eyes flickered. If I level up and become an advanced Ancient Warrior, I should be able to fight him with Spirit Chi. If I can become a beginner Ancient Martial Venerable, I can really fight him. His blood was boiling. The stronger the opponent, only then could he force himself to be stronger. Lin Feng was never afraid of a challenge. Outside the Broken Stone Mountain, Lin Feng sat on the ground. In the capsule alloy house behind him, Xiaoling was soaking in the Geno fluid. Her injuries were not light. Inhale, inhale. Lin Feng breathed slowly. The Nine-Dragon Scripture was operating, and the absorption of spirit chi was especially fast. In the battle with Erengia, his trump card could be said to have been completely exposed. There was no need to hide it anymore. Moreover, he was in the barren land and could be in danger at any time. The faster his strength recovered, the better. Suddenly, Lin Feng opened his eyes. There was a flash of light. The capsule alloy house behind him made a cracking sound, and a delicate purple figure appeared. "You're awake?" Lin Feng stood up with an apologetic expression. It was Xiaoling. Upon seeing Lin Feng, Xiaoling revealed a weak but sweet smile. It was a feeling of relief. She softly agreed. "Thank you, Ling-er," Lin Feng said from the bottom of his heart. This time, if Xiaoling had not stepped forward to save him, it was very likely that he would have fallen off the cliff and died. "I should be the one thanking you. You saved us, Big Brother Lin." Xiaoling's voice was very weak. Her injuries were lighter than Lin Feng's, but her recovery speed was much slower than his. Xiaoling's eyes twinkled as she looked around curiously. "Where's this place?" "Below the cliff." Lin Feng smiled. Xiaoling frowned slightly. Her gaze fell on the crystal watch, and she pressed a few buttons. However, there was no reaction. He couldn't help but let out a soft cry of surprise. "It's useless. There's a strong magnetic field here. The signal is blocked," Lin Feng said. He had a spare crystal watch from the Volkswagen 7. It was not damaged, but he could not contact anyone. "Huh?" Xiaoling's voice was full of worry. "I don't know if it's because of the bat tide that destroyed the magnetic field here." Lin Feng looked into the distance. He was not sure, but other than that, he could not find any other reason. "I hope the captain and Sister Bing can escape this." The bat tide was very scary. Yes, Xiaoling nodded. This was what she was worried about. "We all survived. The captain and the other should be fine." Lin Feng looked at Xiaoling. "There's no point in worrying. Ling-er, rest for a while. We'll leave this place later." "Huh?" Xiaoling was startled. She bit her lip and hesitated. Her body still needed a long period of rest before she could walk normally. "It's okay. I'll carry you." Lin Feng smiled. Xiaoling's face immediately turned red. "Sunset City, First Hospital. How is it, Sister Bing? Still can't get through?" Guanzi paced back and forth anxiously. Ice Rose shook her head. "There's no signal. That shouldn't be." Yu Meng frowned. "If the crystal is damaged, it should not be able to get through. But there's no signal. It was very rare. Even in the depths of the wilderness, The crystal had a very strong signal. Maybe it's because of the bat tide that the magnetic field signal was affected. Ice Rose hesitated and said, maybe it will recover in a while. What if it doesn't recover? Guanxi's expression turned serious. She shook her head. No, I have to go find them. You can't go in. Ice Rose looked worried. World 02 has been locked down by the army. There are more than 100,000 bats in this beast tide. Not only that, there are also a large number of elemental beasts coming towards World 02. The Qinling border has suffered many casualties. It's a mess. Don't worry. Lin Feng's strength is comparable to a high-level ancient martial saint. Xiaoling's niobium force is the best life-saving ability. The two of them will be fine. Yu Meng's beautiful eyes flashed, and she nodded. It's okay. The two of them will be fine. Yu Meng's nails dug deep into her palms. Ice Rose sighed in her heart and pursed her lips. I hope so. Qin Imperial City, Dragon Killing Island's base. It was an oval-shaped cubic pool. There was a crystal-clear liquid mixed in it. It was the expensive, high-level gene therapy cabin. A handsome young man sat cross-legged in the gene therapy cabin. As he breathed, some turbid liquid kept coming out his pores. Erengia. Suddenly, Pa. Erengia's closed eyes suddenly opened like a ferocious beast waking up. He stood up and opened his palms to look at his body. The memories in his mind came back bit by bit. Bang! Erengia jumped out of the cabin and clenched his fists. The radium force circulated and the liquid in his body disappeared. Erengia picked up the clothes on the side and put them on. He turned to look at the high-level gene therapy cabin. The translucent gene therapy cabin was like a mirror. It clearly reflected Erengia's current appearance. There was basically no change. The only thing that changed was the right side of his originally handsome face. There was now an unforgettable knife scar etched into his bones. Ka! Ka! Erengia clenched his fists. The radium force couldn't be stopped. To him who was obsessed with cleanliness, this was definitely a heart-wrenching pain. It was a great humiliation that couldn't be erased. Lin Feng, Erengia roared. He punched with his right fist. The radium force spread wildly. The high-level gene therapy cabin was instantly destroyed. The gene therapy fluid flowed out. As the alarm rang, there was a commotion in the surroundings. Countless members of the Dragon Killing Island station rushed into the room. Young Master Jia! Young Master Jia! The warriors bowed and saluted. Erengia clenched his teeth. His gaze could kill. With a ferocious expression, he snorted coldly and left. Lin Feng, you're pissing me off. Chapter 105. Qinling Mountains. Qi. Qi. Lin Feng's blade was as fast as lightning. D1 Gray Wolf Blade, 10 gold coins each. Lin Feng had his own backup. Speeding didn't affect the flexibility of his blade at all. After a few days of rest, Lin Feng's strength had already recovered. His body moved like a sturgeon, and his blade was like a sturgeon. The hidden dragon sturgeon's blade intent was displayed perfectly. A beginner beast king and more than 10 elemental beasts were all killed in one clean slash. To the current Lin Feng, they were too weak. Carrying Xiaoling wasn't a burden to Lin Feng. Her 1.6-meter petite body only weighed around 80 kilograms. Especially Lin Feng's body intent. In the battle with Erengia, he had already touched the proficient level. Xiao. After a quick kill, Lin Feng immediately left. Elemental cores and materials were not attractive to him at all. Time was more important. Big brother Lin, we're heading the right direction, right? Xiaoling hugged Lin Feng's neck. That's right. Lin Feng's eyes flashed as he said with certainty. Then why are we meeting more and more elemental beasts? And why are they getting stronger? Xiaoling asked curiously. At first, she was a bit shy being carried. After all, she was born in a prestigious family and had never been so close to a man. But slowly she got used to it. Also, being behind Big Brother Lin made her feel at ease. It was as if he could protect her no matter what danger there was. Lin Feng was hesitant. He had suspected it before. But at that time, Sister Bing was driving the cobalt shining sun chariot in the direction they escaped. It was indeed heading towards the 02 ruined world. Therefore, after landing, the slope was towards a ruined world, and the cliff was towards Qinling Mountains. Even if the cliff was broken, the direction wouldn't change. It might be related to the bat tide, or... Lin Feng walked at a constant speed as he pondered. Or what? Xiao Ling asked again. Nothing. Lin Feng smiled. He wasn't sure. However, ever since they entered the Qinling Mountains, strange things had happened one after another. First, the strength of the elemental beasts at the border had increased, and their numbers had increased. Then, the probability of finding the cadmium crystal vein could be said to be very low. Finally, there was the rare bat tide. Perhaps it was a coincidence. But what about 2 or 3? As the saying goes, there must be something fishy going on. Jiaoyang District, Shi family. The Shi family had a luxurious garden house and a wireless surveillance system. The Shi family held a prominent position in Jiaoyang District. However, Wulong dead? Shi Zhong collapsed on the leather sofa, his eyes lifeless. The bodyguards led by L.V. Chung did not say a word. They sighed in their hearts. No one could bear such bad news. What Shi Zhong cared about the most was his eldest son, Shi Wulong. He was the cream of the crop and had been selected to join the dragon-killing island, bringing glory to the family. Who would have thought that it would end up like this? Master, my condolences. Lu Qing advised. Tell me. Shi Zhong's eyes were bloodshot. He grabbed Lu Qing's shoulder. Wulong was already an advanced Geno warrior. How could he be killed by Lin Feng? Lu Qing was in pain. The pain in his shoulder was bone-piercing. Master, this is a message from the dragon-killing island. Ah! Shi Zhong roared to vent his anger. His ferocious face was like an enraged lion. He punched wildly. The room was filled with crackling sounds. The bodyguards quickly retreated, fearing that they would be accidentally injured. Lin Feng. Shi Zhong gritted his teeth. His eyes were about to pop out. Shi Zhong, will make you regret it for the rest of your life. Kill. I will dig up your ancestral grave and kill your whole family. L.V. Chung, give me the binuclear liquid bomb. L.V. Cheng's face changed. At this moment, the sirens of police cars were heard outside. Shi Zhong frowned. He had no idea what was going on. The bodyguards led by Lu Qing were also confused. Inspector Zhong, Shi Zhong was a little dazed. Chief Inspector. Zhong Lei bowed respectfully. In an instant, a man in military uniform with an extraordinary bearing walked in with his head held high, surrounded by guards. His cold gaze swept over Shi Zhongren and the others, and finally landed on Zhong Lei. Inspector Zhong, is what you said true? I swear on my life. Every word is true. Zhong Lei said seriously. Shi Wenlong once kidnapped Lin Feng's sister and threatened her. Shi Zhong even protected his son and intended to do harm to Lin Feng and his family. As he spoke, one of Shi Zhong's bodyguards walked out, took off the crystal watch, and handed it over. Whoosh! Shi Zhong's face instantly turned pale. If he still didn't know what was going on, he would have wasted his life. Very well. The man in the military uniform looked serious. He waved his hand and said, since the evidence is conclusive, take them all back. Take them to jail. After saying that, the man in the military uniform turned and left without even looking at Shi Zhong. Yes, Chief Inspector. Zhong Lei bowed respectfully. He glanced at Shi Zhong with pity in his eyes. He was finished. A micro-video projection. Sir, Shi Zhong and the others have been taken to jail. How should we deal with them? The man in the military uniform asked respectfully. Lock them up first and wait for their punishment. Liang Wutong said casually with her hair slicked back. Yes, sir. The video was turned off. Liang Wutong muttered, Damn, I was almost set up by his son. Ice Rose's face was as cold as frost, but she turned a blind eye. She had long been used to it. As an adventurer, she was happy to repay kindness and revenge. Reason? That was the way of academics. Besides, Shi Zhong was indeed a big threat. Sometimes the scary ones were not the strong ones, but the villains. Especially the villains who were not even afraid of death. Liang Wutong, I asked my father to investigate. That Renge's identity is not simple. Ice Rose said seriously. He is the young master of the Yi family. You mean, the fourth shareholder of Huaxia First Bank, the Yi family? Liang Guotong frowned. Ice Rose nodded. Don't run around if you have nothing to do. Go back to the army and stay there. Got it, Sister Ice. Liang Guotong nodded. All right. Is there any news about Lin Feng and Xiaoling? No, Ice Rose said. But the army has officially started a sweep through the 0-2 ruin world. I believe that the beast tide will be quelled soon. Then we can enter the Qinling Mountains to find them. Liang Guotong nodded and muttered, It's really strange. What attracted the elemental beasts in the 0-2 ruin world? I don't know. Ice Rose shook her head. Rare earth. Xiaoling was surprised. Yes, these two possibilities have some connection that we don't know about. Lin Feng sped through the forest. The Qinling Mountains border with the 0-2 ruin world. Coincidentally, the Bat Tide is also on that side. Also, the timing is quite similar. But elemental beasts can't absorb rare earth elements. Xiaoling was like a koala bear, clinging tightly to Lin Feng's back. Although her body had improved a lot, but she didn't really want to come down. Yes, Lin Feng smiled. This was what he wanted to know too. But he didn't have an accurate answer yet. Suddenly, Hua! Lin Feng's eyes lit up. He stared into the distance, getting closer and closer. That is Chapter 106. Erbium. Heavy rare earth element, erbium. Lin Feng might not recognize the other rare earth elements, but he had a deep impression of the heavy rare earth element, erbium, because this was the first bucket of gold he had earned. 2 gold coins per gram was quite expensive. Rare earth elements were the main materials for making gene fluids and energy capsules. In front of him, it appeared again. But it was not like the fine powder on the elite snow deer last time, but in pieces. The big ones were about the size of a thumb, and the small ones were the size of a fingernail. They were scattered around like stars, and were very beautiful. Wah! Picking up the closest piece of erbium, Lin Feng looked at it carefully. Xiaoling's delicate voice sounded. Brother Lin, what is this? Heavy rare earth element, erbium. Lin Feng smiled. So many. Xiaoling's little head leaned forward. Her pink little face and Lin Feng's face suddenly touched. It was as if they had been electrocuted, and in an instant, the two of them blushed. Thump! Thump! Lin Feng could clearly feel Xiaoling's heartbeat. 2 gold coins per gram. There are at least a few hundred grams here. Lin Feng said to ease the awkwardness. Really? Xiaoling was still a child after all, so she forgot quickly. Doesn't that mean there are close to 1,000 gold coins? Yes. Lin Feng smiled. Close to 1,000 gold coins was nothing to him. What he was curious about was, why would rare earth elements appear here? There, Brother Lin, there's some over there too. Along the way, Xiaoling was overjoyed. Lin Feng was also surprised, although each piece of rare earth element, erbium, was a few grams at least and a few dozen grams at most. But it couldn't withstand too much. In addition to killing elemental beasts in the morning, the rest of the time, he had picked up a lot of rare earth element, at least 100 kilograms. In other words, more than 120,000 gold coins. The speed of earning money was much faster than digging cadmium crystals. So much money, Xiaoling was very happy. You're not short of money. Lin Feng smiled. After spending so many days with Xiaoling, they were already familiar with each other. They were already very familiar with each other. Her identity was not simple. His grandfather was Xia Shan, the dean of the War College in Sunset City. His father was even more incredible, a legendary savage-level ranker who held a high position in the Elemental Merchant Alliance. Possesses the special element niobium heart. Actually, he should have guessed it earlier. Who said so? Xiaoling smiled sweetly. I want to tell Dad that I can earn a lot of money too. Who knows, there might be a rare earth crystal mine up ahead. Lin Feng smiled. How could it be that easy? Rare earths were comparable to B-grade elements and were very rare. However, if there were no rare earth ores, where did these rare earth ores come from? Right now, we should be arriving at the 0-2 world ruins. Lin Feng looked around and calculated in his heart. He put the piece of rare earth in his hand into the crystal watch. Suddenly, his heart stirred. Lin Feng pressed down on the crystal watch. In a split second, the needle began to violently shake, as if a finger was shaking continuously. As expected. What is it, big brother Lin? Xiao Ling poked her head out. Ling, maybe you're right. Lin Feng said thoughtfully. Xiao Ling's eyes lit up. Is there really a rare earth crystal mine? I don't know. Lin Feng stared at the needle. But this place is really special. Previously, I always thought that the crystal watch failed because of the bat tide. Actually, I was wrong. In fact, it should be due to the influence of strong energy magnetic field. Xiao Ling hummed softly. She seemed to understand. Lin Feng pointed at the crystal watch in his left hand. His eyes lit up. The more the needle shakes, the closer we are to that strong energy magnetic field. Searching, there was a direction. The shaking of the needle meant that the direction was correct. Otherwise, it meant that it was wrong. Lin Feng and Xiao Ling chatted along the way and picked up rare earth elements. They were not lonely, not to mention that there were a large number of elemental beasts along the way. To the current Lin Feng, he even had the ability to kill an elite high-level beast king. Safety was naturally not a problem. 2 days later, Lin Feng and Xiao Ling arrived at a place with a river. There's no way. Lin Feng looked around. He glanced at the needle. The shaking speed was so fast that it left afterimages. The energy magnetic field here was huge. Xiao Ling's beautiful eyes flickered as she looked around curiously. Lin Feng looked into the distance. This river was quite wide and had no end in sight. Could it be that the strong energy magnetic field that affected the crystal watch and the rare earth elements were related to this river? The possibility was very small. It should be in the river. Lin Feng judged instantly. Xiao Ling nodded and did not say anything. Lin Feng knew very well that lakes and rivers were the two most dangerous places in the wilderness. Captain Shi had already warned him about this before entering the Qinling Mountains. Firstly, the elemental beasts were densely distributed in the water. Secondly, the combat strength of warriors in the water was greatly reduced. Thirdly, it was very difficult to escape in the water. Although the river was less dangerous than the lake, it was still 10 times more dangerous than the ground. What do you think, Ling? Lin Feng asked suddenly. Xiao Ling was startled and said softly, Brother Lin, you decide. Lin Feng smiled. I mean, how is your recovery? You should be able to use niobium power now, right? Lin Feng smiled. Xiao Ling's face immediately turned red. Yes. Her voice was very soft. Xiao Ling was a little shy. So, Brother Lin already knew that she had recovered. Then let's go into the water. Lin Feng's eyes were bright. Ling, Er's recovery meant that their safety would be greatly improved. Whoosh! Boom! The two broke through the river like swordfish. Sunset City, Military District. Father. Ice Rose walked in with the frost bow on her back. Lieutenant Colonel, if there's nothing else, we'll leave first. The two men in military uniforms looked at each other and left. Yes. The middle-aged man nodded. Although he was just sitting there, he had the aura of a war horse. Lieutenant Colonel Bing Rong, second in command of the Sunset City Military District. What is it, Mayor? Bing Rong smiled kindly. He was very dignified in the military, but at home, he was a loving father. Father, has the beast tide been quelled? Ice Rose sat down and asked casually. Almost. Bing Rong smiled. Actually, this isn't a beast tide. Ice Rose was startled. A real beast tide is an attack on the city, on us humans. But this time, let's call it beast riot. Rong Bing smiled kindly. They were just attracted here. Rong Bing smiled. Rong Bing. Rong Bing. Rong Bing. Attracted? Ice Rose didn't understand. Bing Rong nodded. All the elemental beasts are gathered in 02 Ruin World. Rare earth elements? Ice Rose asked curiously. No. Bing Rong shook his head. Glancing around, Bing Rong bent down and said softly, It's an ancient ruin. The Qin Emperor's tomb. Ice Rose's eyes lit up. Chapter 107. Ancient Ruins. It had a mysterious power that allowed it to survive the Great Extinction. It was second only to the sacred relics. This, Ice Rose was stunned. Actually, the Qin Emperor's mausoleum is under the 02 ruins. Iceborne said softly, This isn't a big secret. Even if you know, you can't enter. The army has people guarding it 24 hours a day. Many martial honorables have the chance to enter the Qin Emperor's mausoleum. For example, the winner of Sunset City's Rising Star competition will be able to enter the Qin Emperor's mausoleum for 24 hours. Of course, the country has many seedlings to nurture. The most talented ones can even enter the second level of the Qin Emperor's mausoleum. Ice Rose was surprised. There's a second level? Iceborne smiled, of course. Take Dragon Killing Island, for example. The country is only working with them for mutual benefits. Why would they nurture Dragon Killing Island's geniuses? The first level of the Qin Emperor's mausoleum is only for outsiders and normal geniuses loyal to the country. Ice Rose nodded. What's so special about the Qin Emperor's mausoleum? Special. Iceborne smiled. Mayor, you are already a middle-level martial honorable, right? Yes. Ice Rose nodded. She didn't understand. When your strength increases to a high-level ancient martial supremacy and your mind expands. Rong Bing's eyes flashed with a faint light. I will use all my military merits to exchange for you to enter the Qin Emperor's mausoleum. There is the key to breaking through and becoming a savage-level expert. In the river, limitless sea of qi. Little fish swim. Lin Feng moved like a fish. Light and easy. The limitless sea of qi circulated. It was as though it had merged with the river. Little Fish Swim's movements were very realistic. It was like a fishtail that kept on moving. That feeling was very wonderful. It was as though he had returned to the original place and found the key point, or body intent. Lin Feng was still carrying Xiaoling because he was afraid she would get hurt. Every moment in the river was dangerous. The density of elemental beasts here was terrifying. They were fish and shrimps. The shell-type elemental beasts had their own unique abilities. They didn't need to find elemental crystals. This was because water already contained all kinds of mineral elements. Evil Dragon Entanglement. Lin Feng brandished his Ash Wolf battle blade, and in an instant, it was like a water tornado, madly rolling up the surrounding elemental beasts. It was very easy. It was much easier than he had imagined. Big Brother Lin, you're amazing. Even though he had been shocked countless times, he still couldn't believe it. However, Xiaoling was still in disbelief. She had always heard that in the water, martial warriors could not even use 30% of their strength. This was especially true for ancient martial warriors. Compared to Geno warriors, ancient warriors relied more on body movements. However, Brother Lin was able to move around easily even if he was surrounded by hundreds of elemental beasts, not to mention his explosive attack power. It was just a small test. Luck. Lin Feng smiled. He wasn't being humble. He was truly lucky. He didn't expect that the power of the boundless sea of qi in the water was not inferior to that on the ground. He wasn't affected at all. In fact, and even stronger, saber intent, body intent, even the hidden power of the boundless sea of qi. Lin Feng was secretly shocked in his heart and suddenly smiled in realization. Basically, the boundless sea of qi was born for water. Needless to say, the body movement was also small fish swim. The accompanying 7 spinning slash, evil dragon entanglement, flying fish spin, violent shark bite, hidden dragon sturgeon, electric eel, demon fish stealth, and whale swallowing force were all intents of the creatures in the sea. They were created. However, it was predestined. If he hadn't entered the river, he would never have known. Chi! Whoosh! Lin Feng swam nimbly. Saber intent was secondary. The feeling of body intent was the clearest. Although he had comprehended small fish swim's body intent to proficiency, it was more of a blur. However, he now felt the true essence of body intent. It was not only proficient, but also perfect, although it would take a long time to reach a truly perfect state. However, the comprehension at this moment was as if the blurry road ahead had suddenly become clear and completely illuminated. A broad road. Search. The positioning needle's direction was clear and direct. Deep in the river. The deeper he dived, the stronger the needle shook. At the same time, the greater the threat. Whether it was the sea, the lake, or even the river, the deeper he went, the stronger the elemental beasts were. From the soldier level to the commander level, to the Beast King level, and even, again, Lin Feng felt helpless. He had just killed a high-level Beast King level silver-feathered water snake, and a pitch-black whale, swallowing clam, appeared in front of him. As it opened and closed, the surrounding elemental beasts were all swallowed. The magnesium beams in the clam crisscrossed like lasers, instantly crushing all the creatures, while a strong suction force came. Even if Lin Feng had body intent proficiency like small fish swim, it was useless now. Even the river water was swallowed. This place seemed to be its territory. The huge clam shell was more than 15 meters in diameter. There were no crystals. This was the elite-level whale swallowing Clam King. Boom! The nine-dragon scripture was activated. Violent shark bite. The vigorous energy of heaven and earth exploded and collided with a whale swallowing Clam King. It was like a meteor colliding with a meteorite. But, the whale swallowing Clam King was quite cunning. The magnesium beam shot out, and Lin Feng was instantly ambushed. He spat out blood and flew backward. There was no time to react. Hiss! The shocking suction force came again. This guy. Lin Feng tightened his grip on the gray wolf battle blade. The moment he was sucked away, his spiritual energy exploded. The giant dragon roared and roared. Facing the overbearing whale swallowing Clam King, Lin Feng's blade intent was even more overbearing. The whale swallowing Clam King made a tragic sound in the whirlpool of the river water and was directly smashed into pieces. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Rays of magnesium light shot out. Even if the whale swallowing Clam King was dead, it still launched its final attack. Iron Shirt. Lin Feng reacted quickly. Clang, 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 clang. Lin Feng's chest tightened. He blocked again with the gray wolf battle blade, but due to inertia, he was forced back. Before he could catch his breath, another commotion came from behind. The black fog crab, which was 20 meters wide, breathed in and out black fog. It waved its silver-black pincers, and the clanging sound made people's hair stand on end. Flying fish turn. Lin Feng fiercely slashed his blade behind him. The power of the blade swept across and stopped his figure. Little fish swim. The boundless sea of energy was activated again. Lin Feng's body spun rapidly, and he quickly escaped. Big Brother Lin, are you okay? Ling Er's concerned and anxious voice came from behind. I'm fine. Lin Feng's body was like a little fish, and his breathing was rapid. At this moment, he finally understood the horror of the water elemental beasts. They were simply endless. The battle came wave after wave, and there was no chance for them to rest. Before he finished speaking, suddenly, boom, boom, the whole river shook violently. Lin Feng glanced over, only to see the tyrannical black fog crab fleeing in panic. He was shocked and turned his head abruptly. A boundless and terrifying pressure arose spontaneously. It was a terrifying power that made his soul tremble. Savage level. Lin Feng was shocked.